get you back inside your head before the summer ends and spread a little love. Just for a little fun, I'll make you come back to me before the rise of every sun. Baby, it's meant to be, I know you got a man, but he don't understand. You're gonna be a heartbreaker, you're such a love taker. So just suck me in and you can toss me like a cigarette, 'cause I just wanna be a bad habit, yeah. Rhythm in our love, it's impressive, excessive. You can't make this stuff up. My chest beats, it's restless, wakes the neighbors up above. Yeah, baby, come and show me love. Baby, come and show me love, because you're gonna be a heartbreaker. You're such a love taker. So just suck me in and you can toss me like a cigarette, 'cause I just wanna be a bad habit, yeah. We can get on a plane and take a one-way ride, steal us away to find a place we can hide. It wouldn't take much to disappear for a night, just to give into the need and leave it all behind. 'Cause I know that you know that I know that you want me. You told me, now show me, come blow me away. 'Cause I know that you know that I know that you want me. You told me, now show me, come blow me away. You're gonna be a heartbreaker, you're such a love taker. So just suck me in and you can toss me like a cigarette, 'cause I just wanna be a bad habit, yeah. You're gonna be a heartbreaker, you're such a love taker. So just suck me in and you can toss me like a cigarette, 'cause I just wanna be a bad habit, yeah. Suck me in and you can toss me like a cigarette, 'cause I just wanna be a bad habit, yeah.
Good morning, folks. Freewheeling Friday. Thanks for watching Inside the Numbers with the People's Pundit. Follow me on Twitter at People's_Pundit right there. It's Polo Shirt Day, and it is the final debate was last night. So let me set the stage for you. Okay. So because as usual, everybody's missing the mark. All right. And let me set the stage. You have Tony Bobulinski come out before the debate, very reminiscent, and he was at the debate. Very reminiscent of the trick that Donald Trump pulled. That was Steve Bannon's idea, from what I can understand, but it seems like the Trump campaign remembered that one, right? So he brings him there right after having this press conference about Joe Biden's corruption or alleged, corruption, text messages, to contradict what he has said before. And then immediately the Biden campaign started shifting the goalposts, and it went from I never talked to my son, I never met with him during business dealings, to okay, I did, maybe I did, but now it's just shifted all the way after 3 or 4 different goalposts. It has shifted toward I have never taken any money from a foreign source. And in fact, that is not what the allegations are alleging. They are alleging that he took money he used Hunter Biden as a funnel, as a go-between. That is the Chinese model, by the way. So we're just talking about China here, but that is the Chinese model. They don't buy the politician themselves by stuffing their bank accounts, Laura. As Laura knows, they buy the people around them and enrich the people around them, and then the politician takes a kickback. So that was the scene before the debate. And contrary to, these people are good actors, right? Aren't they? Sure. These people, and Laura, before she got in to this sphere, at least, peripheral through what I do, she never believed like these stories I would tell her, like, oh, the guy's an ass on TV. Like, he looks like a nice guy, he's a piece of crap, right? Or these are not very good people, and people who work in this business know what I'm talking about. They're just generally not good people. They're not nice people. Political media, they're actors and actresses, and that's part of what they do. It's amazing. It's long gone are the days of leather, wearing down the leather on the sole of your shoe or chase down a story. That is just not the image of a modern journalist anymore, not working class. And before, like I said, let me paint the scene for you. They were apoplectic. Apoplectic. This is happening to us all over again. We're not going to cover it. Just completely, how are we going to cover this now? And Joe Biden opens. So the idea, what they needed to avoid a repeat of 2016. And this is what, as usual, the pundits just aren't getting. And they know it. I submit people like Chris Wallace. I don't submit. I know they're just liars. They know what some angle that they're not going to tell you in their post-debate punditry, right? But they know that they needed, and the general consensus was they needed a Trump kind of meltdown. So they needed Donald Trump from the first debate to show up again. And that didn't happen. All right. Now, did he do everything I suggested in the show the other day? Not totally, but he did enough. He did enough. He needed people to just see him. And if you don't believe me, take my word for it. I mean, don't take my word for it. Take the word of the African-American woman who was on the focus group with Laura Ingraham after the debate. She was a Biden supporter. You could clearly see that would be that woman. If it was a man, I would say, statistically speaking, just from a polling we've conducted, if that was a man who was a Democrat, an older Democrat, black Democrat, that guy speaking like that, reacting to Trump's performance like that. Oh, I think Trump won this debate. I got to tell you, he made some good points. This, that. I didn't like what I heard out of Biden here. I didn't like that. That's a shy Trump voter. That's somebody who's going to go in and maybe they'll tell you, I was a Biden voter. I was going to vote for Joe Biden. And now he probably will not. And we're going to talk specifically about the exchanges with the African-American community because race relations was a topic and what I think I saw there. But overwhelmingly, they needed Donald Trump to implode to avoid 100% without certainty, total confidence that they would not see a late Trump surge and that would not see a repeat of 2016. That is what they needed. That is what they know they needed. And then yet they go on and lie to everybody because we're flipping through channels. We always like to see, somebody like a Frank Luntz, and his whole reputation is ruined. I don't know why I don't know why Frank thinks anybody cares about his, he's reduced to CBS News, he's not, he didn't lose weight because he cares about his health. He lost weight because he's starving because after 2016, nobody gives a damn about his opinion anymore. All right. The guy's he's probably surviving on dollar menu burritos at McDonald's. He is totally useless. That's it. He got the pay cut from Paul Ryan. That's right. All right. The bottom line is they know what needed to happen here. They needed Trump to just completely do what he did on the first debate because the first debate, by the way, I told you all first-time incumbents have horrible first debates. That just happens. I still don't think it was in the lens of what the media says, but he could not do that this time around. He just couldn't. Why? Because you heard me the other day. It's not just shy. It's the seasick voter. He needed to talk to the seasick voter. That's what he needed to do. All right? And this idea that there are all these votes out and it's too late is nonsense. We heard the same thing. And I tell you don't read these early vote tea leaves. I got some numbers. We'll share them in a little bit. But first, let's stick with the debate. All right. That is what they needed to happen. Believe me when I tell you, they know they didn't get it. They didn't get it. What they got was probably one of the biggest mistakes I have ever seen a presidential candidate make during a presidential debate. And if you don't know what the highlight from this debate was, I'm going to show it to you right now because Trump already cut the ad, threw it on Twitter, and started running it. And I grabbed it to show you because this is what he will be bludgeoned with. By he, I mean Biden. This is what he will be bludgeoned with over the next 10 days or whatever it is now, right? 8 days, 9 days. And that's a long time in politics, folks. 9 days is a very long time.
All it takes is one
And
disaster.
that's all it really takes is one disaster. Now, I'm not saying that's absolutely going to happen. We'll pull it. Thank God. We'll be in the Rust Belt starting tonight, and we'll track it on Monday. I'll give you the initial prelim of what I see, and then we'll get the finals, heading into the weekend before the election. Because with the help from you guys have done fantastic. We'll take a look at the money in a bit. Like I told you, I had faith when I started yesterday, when I started the project yesterday. I had faith you would do it, and you're doing it. So I don't think you're going to leave me hanging on Thursday next week. I think we're going to hit it. All right. So we'll be able to do Michigan. We'll be able to do Wisconsin. We'll be able to do Minnesota, and we'll be able to do Pennsylvania.
Would there be any place for fossil fuels, including coal and fracking, in a Biden administration?
No, we would work it out. We would make sure it's eliminated and no more subsidies for either one of those.
I guarantee we're going to end fossil fuel.
No new fracking.
I'd gradually move away from fracking.
And I think it's critically important on day one that we end any fossil fuel leases on public lands.
What about, say, stopping fracking and stopping pipeline infrastructure?
They want to do the same thing I want to do. They want to phase out fossil fuels, and we're going to phase out fossil fuels.
There's no question I'm in favor of banning fracking.
That's coming. If you didn't think that was coming, you were sadly mistaken. That will be run. So will Joe's comments from last night over and over and over and over and over until for the next 9 days, 10 days, whatever it is. Look, folks, the corruption thing isn't enough. It's not enough. It wasn't enough in 2016. We polled it. Americans knew Hillary Clinton was corrupt. We were polling since July in 2016. Americans knew Hillary Clinton was corrupt. Americans wanted to vote for Donald Trump, but they weren't there yet. They just weren't there yet. It wasn't until October 24th when everything started to break wide open for him. In our tracking poll, look nationally, because of the way we waited for California, by the way. Had we fixed California and maybe a little New York in the hindsight, Hillary probably would have had anywhere between a 1 to 2 point lead for the duration of that tracking poll. But instead, Trump had big leads because we weighted California to reflect what it typically reflects in a presidential election. It was disproportionately not the case. So that is what threw off our national a little bit, which was about even in the final poll. And I got to turn that off. So basically, that it wasn't enough. Corruption simply was not enough. They needed to know, what were you going to do for me? And why am I saying it's not enough? Because Americans inherently know politicians are corrupt. Now, it can be worse than people think, and some things can really shock them, like some shock value, like Tony Bobulinski yesterday was shock value. Why? Because everything Joe Biden said is not true. And for many people, that hearing them and seeing them on Facebook later and seeing, not on Twitter, because Jack the Hack is just not going to allow free debate of ideas. This is everything he said he didn't do. And by the way, we're going to have somebody on. I'm going to save that for later, though, who's going to talk about maybe fill in some of the gaps. I don't want to give too much yet because I'll be thrown off before I have him on, probably. But it's big. So the New York Post was they were not the first. All right. Let me just put it like that. But in any event, it's not enough because all Americans inherently do think that politicians are corrupt. They do. All right. So they think to themselves, well, what are they going to do for me? I know this guy's is on the take. I'm sure this one's corrupt. I'm sure this one does this with these people. What are they going to do for me? All right. And in the end, they needed in 2016 for Donald Trump to say, I am capable of being president. I know I have a lot of bluster. I'm filled with bluster. I'm filled with crass. But when it comes down to it, I'm serious. I will do these things for you. And they already know in places like Pennsylvania that he did do it. You don't have to tell a voter in Washington County or I kept talking about Scranton, you say from Scranton, this guy is not from Scranton. And in fact, he talked about growing up in Delaware the other day. So Which one is it, folks? I mean, which one is it? You can't be from multiple places. I know. And Trump, that he did a good job doing that, by the way, saying, the guys, depends on what day of the week it is and who he's talking to. That is where he comes from. I mean, he did a very good job with that. He did a good job doing what he should have been doing all along, which is that Joe Biden is a 47-year politician. All right. Joe Biden has been around a long time. One of the most effective lines of attack on Hillary Clinton in 2016, which is something that will never go away as an effective line of attack from an outsider. And what he did, Laura, was manage to run again as an outsider. All right. That is what he did. He hadn't been doing that for a while, and he had the incumbent noose being hung around his neck because of coronavirus. And I actually think he did very well on coronavirus last night. So that, I know Biden tried taking him to task, looked in the mirror, looked in the camera, your family's thing, and Trump completely squashed it, folks. He did. I hate to tell the media pundits, the not so smart, mediocre people who do this for a living, he crushed it when he said, look, typical politics. Of course, you don't want to talk about your corruption in China anymore. Of course, you don't want to talk about how much you took from the CCP. And look right in the camera with your pre-script, right? He's like, that's a typical politician. I'm not a politician. That was, Laura, obviously, how Laura feels. She loved it. I mean, but for the voter out there who's a persuadable voter, that is a reminder of why they voted for him in 2016. And when we're talking about those reluctant 16 voters, that is what he needed to do. That's and people are completely missing the mark. They are totally missing the mark. And the corruption thing will chip away. Joe Biden made a monumental mistake on fossil fuels and fracking. And by the way, how would you feel to wake up to be Glenn Kessler this morning at the fact checker at the Washington Post, or PolitiFact, who ran those fake fact checks that Biden never said he would ban fracking? Flip-flopping is not a legitimate reason to give a false rating on a fact check. Lying.
Feel being a coal miner in Pennsylvania to find out if Joe's elected, he's going to make you unemployed.
Western Pennsylvania, all the way up to Erie, fracking, coal mining in southeastern Ohio is where that matters. They tried to interchange the words. Fossil fuel and frack. No, fossil fuels. Fracking is fossil fuels, folks.
Wait, we're not going to end it. We're going to phase it out.
We're going to phase it out. We're going to phase it out.
We'll have a job for a little bit.
I have never seen a bigger mistake. I have never seen it. And then, you could say the looking at the watch thing. Herbert Walker Bush did that in 92 in his debate with Hillary Clinton. And I know the media is not, it's totally different ball game this year with totally different ground rules. But Herbert Walker Bush was looking at his watch like Joe Biden was doing in 1992, and people found it very off-putting. The snickering, everyone talks about Trump's stupid faces he makes, and I don't know how many times last night I said the faces, Trump, the faces. But then no sooner did I say that than Joe Biden would make that dumb face. Either he's looking like this. He's got two faces, Joe Biden, when someone else was talking during a debate. And he wasn't always like this. He was a fantastic debater. He was. I really thought he was very strong in 2012 and 2008, by the way, although I think Palin did do a good job. There was a point where he tried to steal Obama's no blue states, no red states, just in the United States. It totally did not work out. Okay. But anyway, he's got like two faces when Trump is talking. One is the deer in the headlights face. All right. Where, this one, you guys know what I'm talking about, right? I mean, he looks like he's gone. Like, anyone who's had a grandfather or who started to become senile later in age, or that's what he's doing, that face. He's like scrambling for his thought again. He's trying to refocus on where he is. And then the other face is that, I don't know, snicker. Yeah, it's not good. It's so for all of these talks about, how Trump does these off-putting faces, Biden's got his own. But again, those are little tells, The the fracking and fossil fuel mistake last night was an absolute catastrophe. And just further, I'm going to pull up the crosstabs in Pennsylvania. Do you, and I know it's tough to see, so I will read it for you. Hold on, that's county by county. Let's just do all. All right. Maybe it'll be a little bit more legible. But do you support or oppose fracking as a means of increasing oil and natural gas production in the United States? And while market site takes forever to load up because we're at this point now, we're like 60,000 interviews, no joke. So it's getting crazy this year. This year, that's about where we're at, 50, 60,000 interviews when you talk about the totality of everything we've done. Anyway, because it's going around and around and around, 48.1% in Pennsylvania supported, 28.6% opposed, and 23.3% said they were unsure. And I wish the hell it would load up. There it is. All right. So, I mean, this is a monumental catastrophe for him. I can't believe his campaign didn't prep him on this better. Or maybe they did, and after an hour, 2 hours, and thank you guys for your super chats, and maybe after an hour, hour and a half, because it did happen at the end, toward the end of the debate, maybe there's only so much you can expect Joe Biden to do. So look, bottom line, this was a resounding Trump debate win. I don't, snap polls be damned, even though I do see several polls where Trump won. But there's no doubt that was Donald Trump's, I would say, that was Donald Trump's best debate I think we've ever seen him put on, as far as what, he's always the best at crunch time. Unless you're a Trump supporter, and I know you're going to say the second debate with Hillary Clinton was the best, you'd be in jail. I know you love that, but I'm talking about from a objective point of view here. That was Donald Trump's best debate. And that is what he needed to do heading into the final stretch, because this race was close, is close. The media polls are full of crap. Even the Biden campaign doesn't believe them. I can say it with certainty now, looking at Wisconsin recent Wisconsin polling of independents. I'm looking at independents in Kenosha. Okay, across the board, this is a close race. It had the potential for Biden to break it open. It did. There is no doubt about that. But what are we at now? When was Pennsylvania polled? Maybe 2 weeks ago now, almost a week and a half. It was 2 points 2 weeks ago. Where do you think it's at now? And by the way, I tell you guys not to read the early vote tea leaves, but I am going to tell you a couple of things about what I see, because the media, one of their favorite things to do, they did it in 2016 too, because the early vote was the big talk in 2016. I could show you Nate's projection in North Carolina again if you don't remember. All right. These people making fools of themselves, who made fools of themselves, are the same people on TV giving you their unsolicited, inaccurate, less than mediocre advice. As of yesterday, early vote in Pennsylvania totaled, are you ready? As a share of the 2016 early vote, 20%. Just a little bit over. That's it. Now, I got to go back and look at the new numbers. I'm sure there have been ballots handed in since. But when I looked yesterday before the show, it was 20% of the total of 2016. Not the total vote. The total early vote before Election Day came. That's it. In Michigan, Republicans are doing better than they have done in any year as far as a share of their vote in early vote. They are doing better than ever. And I thought 2016 was rather impressive. Now, we don't have, of course, Michigan, Minnesota, Wisconsin. They're hard to model. And even when you do know somebody's party affiliation in the Rust Belt, it can be a little bit difficult. Ohio has some inference, but for the most part, they have tricky little laws. So sometimes it looks like there's a lot of independents that aren't independents. They're really Democrats. And because of their activity, they got booted off because Ohio's got some weird rules. But all in all, folks, this is not the picture the picture they are painting for you is not reality. And what I'm trying to tell, let's do another one. North Carolina in 2008, when Democrats won North Carolina, Barack Obama won it barely, and Kay Hagan barely won it. All right. She did good because Barack Obama was on the ballot. All right. There was a 21.5 point early vote lead for Democrats in North Carolina. In 2016, when Donald Trump won it by over 100,000 votes, about 3.5 points, Democrats had over a 16-point partisan edge in the early vote. This is why I tell you guys not to read the early vote tea leaves, because it's too subjective. You could play around with it all you want, but this is the partisan break that they keep talking about. Right now, it's 14%. That's it. As of yesterday, when Republicans erased it. And by the way, I forgot the picture. I had to take my son to go get something from a pet store.
Slacker.
There were these trucks with Trump lights on them, and they were painted with Trump flags and stuff. They're going up and down the road, reminding people to vote. It was unbelievable. The line, and we are in an R30 district. This was unbelievable. Get out the vote. And I had already checked the North Carolina early voting numbers. And I'm like, holy crap, they're making this much headway. And some of these red areas didn't even put their best foot forward yet. Florida, same thing. We still haven't seen the red counties put their best foot forward. Let's look at a liberal county. Miami. All right. You have the total in-person early vote. You have the vote by mail, vote by total, and the early in-person. Typically, Republicans do very well in Florida with absentee ballots. I told you we started polling 2 months ago. I told you that Republicans told us they would not mail their ballots that much this year, that they would in-person vote and they would vote on election day. And I got news for everybody. There's a swell a-coming. It's gonna happen. How do I know? Because I was right about the rest of it. Democrats got a nice chunk early of their 4 out of 4 voters, by the way. And media pundits, many of them, they know this. I'm telling you, they're lying. They're liars. Frank Luntz is a liar. He is intentionally lying to you. When was the last time a fat Frank Luntz focus group told you anything about the election outcome? Have they ever been right? Why does CBS have them on there? Because he's a hired hack. He is not telling you the truth. Right now, the partisan split total is 44-35 in Florida. Edge Democrats, 9 points. That's nothing for a Florida election, folks. And especially in the trajectory in which it's heading. Total vote by mail, about 1,035,000 as of yesterday. This is yesterday's numbers. I got this in Miami-Dade. All right. And this is, by the way, this is Miami-Dade I'm talking about here. Okay. 1.6, 48-31, basically, right? So that's the vote by mail total. So when they have a 17-point partisan lead, understand that is not the 30 to 50 point lead that the media polls are showing. It's not. It's not. And I know, because it's hard to poll this. You get more interested people. So you get people who voted early disproportionately, which, by the way, guess what? Is a skewed liberal audience. So it's hard to get that kind of representation in a poll. It is always wrong, almost always wrong. I was shocked I was that right in Pennsylvania. As you guys know, if you watched the show with Barnes and I was stunned. I was like, I think this is going to be off. And he was like, that's about right. If you guys remember seeing that live, I was like, is it? Because it's usually not. Miami, yesterday, in-person update, 156,972 Republicans. They made up 48% of the electorate in Miami in person. Democrats, 32%. The in-person total so far, 46% Republicans, 36% Democrats. Why does that matter? The in-person total is catching up to the vote by mail. The vote that is about over 1 million. The vote by mail is about 2.5. Vote by mail has been going on a while. That lead is not big enough to sustain if this keeps going. Can it sustain? Are we still seeing big chunks of vote by mail? Are hundreds of thousands coming in a day? Nope. 84,000 ballots in Miami-Dade for Democrats yesterday, vote by mail, 51%. Republicans, 65,000. The vote by mail is slowing up. The margin is getting closer. The overall margin is now 11. And the in-person margin is 16, R16. How long do you think that gap is going to keep that big? All right? These people, again, don't listen, and the worry warts out there, whether you're on the Trump side, you're on the Biden side. One thing I can tell you about Twitter pundits, all right, and then the ones that you see, the blue check Twitter pundits, they're not good at their job at all. If you're they're what did I call them last night? Twitter plagiarizers. They scour Twitter looking for a smart thing that they can regurgitate because they haven't had an original thought in their life. All of a sudden, everyone's talking about the drop in the youth vote. Didn't Larry bring that up 2 months ago? Wasn't that Larry's speculation 2 months ago? His projection? Now it's all over Fox News like that's their original thought. Less than mediocre. If you think back to 18, even a broken clock is right twice a day. And I would submit to you that that broken clock was only right once a day. Because they barely got the House right. Barely. Where Democrats did not take 60 seats. They did slightly better than average in the House. And slightly below, and not slightly, historically below average in the U.S. Senate. You have to go back to JFK for that week of a performance among a challenging party to an incumbent first-term midterm. If Republicans would have gotten just one more seat, close race out in Montana, though we had it Tester +2, we nailed that puppy. All right. It was that close in Montana, if they would have gotten one more, or maybe Arizona, if they weren't dumpster diving, or if Democrats in Maricopa County weren't allowing their precincts to vote in person for 3 days. Do you know the damage? Go look at Florida if you don't believe me. The damage 3 days of in-person voting, disproportionately one side doing it, the other side not. The damage that can be done in 3 days. It's incredible. Look at the damage Republicans are doing right now in Florida, and Democrats have been voting. Imagine if they were not allowed to vote in Collier County. Imagine if they weren't allowed to vote in Seminole County. The damage that could be done. One more seat, and it would have been the weakest performance for a challenging party during an incumbent first-term midterm since FDR. Senator Donnelly is no longer the senator from Illinois. Nate. Senator Nelson is no longer the senator from the state of Florida. Nate. Andrew Gillum is not the governor of Florida. Nate. Claire McCaskill is not the senator from Missouri. Nate. You want me to keep going? Ignore this crap. Ignore this crap.
Somebody said,
These are
Nate.
That's right. Indiana is right. Forgot about that one. Sorry, Senator Braun. Sorry. You were always ahead, by the way, Senator Braun. You were always ahead, right? Did he never fell behind? It never even got closer than 3 points. We pulled that race like 4 times. It was Braun by 3 to 12. 12 was during the height of the Kavanaugh controversy. Same thing with Jim Cramer. He blew a lead out. Rick Scott had a 6-point lead. It came back down. It receded. And even I thought that 6-point lead was inflated, right? I was like, this isn't real. We didn't poll Missouri. I didn't need to. I knew Josh Hawley was going to thump her. Tennessee was not competitive. Nate. Remember when now this Kansas poll from Siena, all right, which polls for the New York Times, says Trump's only up a little bit in Kansas. So Robert went back, and he did because I was like, are you serious? They're doing this in Kansas again. Pat Roberts did not lose to Greg Orman. Nate. All right. We can keep going. Orman had a huge lead in Kansas. They really thought he was going to beat Pat Roberts. And we're doing this again? This is the definition of insanity. This will be a close race because this is the United States of America. And we are deeply, deeply divided. Corruption is not enough to get that tiny little slice of swing voters. And for those of you who say there aren't swing voters out there, these are the same idiots who keep releasing these polls Nate. Who the hell voted for Donald Trump in 2016 that are now backing Joe Biden? If there's no such thing or very little of a swing voter, do you understand they publish information that contradicts themselves? We call them the Obama, Walker, Trump voter for a reason. Because they voted for each of those candidates. In Wisconsin, Barack Obama twice. Scott Walker often twice. And some of them voted for Evers in 18, which is why Walker lost. They also voted for Donald Trump after they voted for Barack Obama twice. There are 200 counties in the United States of America that voted for Barack Obama twice and then voted for Donald Trump. There's no such thing as a swing voter. This is some mentally handicapped crap, man. I mean, really.
You started a fire.
All right, so Nate.
Nate.
Guy's a fraud, and I'm just sick of it, you know? Should we go back? Should I pull up Robert's tweet? You want to see? Robert was like, remember when Nate Silver forecasted that Pat Roberts would be defeated by Greg Orman in 2014? Fantastic times. He also forecasted Kay Hagan would defeat Tom Tillis in North Carolina in 2014. Why did you do that, Nate? Because you're a poll reader. Because you don't even know what a fundamental is. You're fundamentally a fraud. Let's take a look at another clip from the debate. This is a strong moment for Trump, which is what I'm bringing it up because I criticized him all week. Did I not? Did I slam him all week or not?
Trump?
Where he got it right, it's worth pointing out. And I think if Trump surges and wins this race, if he closes that 2-point gap in Pennsylvania, which may not even be a 2-point gap anymore, I don't know. I have to go and poll it this weekend, which because of you, we will. If he closes this gap in Pennsylvania, if he closes this gap in Wisconsin, which I trust Susquehanna, they do good work. If they say Wisconsin is tied, it's tied. I don't really give a damn what Change.org, who came out of nowhere and has no track record, has to say. I don't care what Morning Consult, who is yet to call an election correctly, has to say. I don't care what Quinnipiac, who nobody, not even Real Clear Politics, takes seriously anymore. I don't care what they have to say. All right? So there are only a few handful of people to get it right. It's a close race. And if Trump closes that gap, and I do think he's got some space to close, I do, it'll be because he returned to this guy.
Didn't he do it 4 years ago? Why didn't you do that 4 years ago, even less than that? Why didn't you do it? You were vice president. You keep talking about all these things you're going to do and you're going to do this. But you were there just a short time ago, and you guys did nothing.
We did.
You know, Joe, I ran because of you. I ran because of Barack Obama, because you did a poor job. If I thought you did a good job, I would have never run. I would have never run. I ran because of you. I'm looking at you now. You're a politician. I ran because of you.
All right, Vice President Biden, your response to that, and then I do have some questions for both of you.
Well, I tell you what, I hope he does look at me, because what's happening here is, you know who I am, you know who he is, you know his character, you know my character, you know our reputations for honor and telling the truth. I am anxious to have this race. I am anxious to see this take place. The character of the country is on the ballot. Our character is on the ballot. Look at us closely.
Let me ask some follow-up. Please respond, and then we're going to have follow-up
If this stuff is true about Russia, Ukraine, China, other countries, Iraq, if this is true, then he's a corrupt politician.
All right.
So don't give me the stuff about how you're this innocent baby. Joe, they're calling you a corrupt politician.
Nobody.
President Trump, I want to stay on the issue of race. We're talking about the issue.
Laptop from hell.
President Trump, we're talking about race right now, and I do want to stay on the issue of race. President Trump,
See, that's what he left him with. That was incredibly damning. I don't really care what anybody said. It was incredibly damning. He pointed out two things that he really needed to remind people of. One is that innocent baby. It was funny. I saw somebody's commenting that, and I believe she's a Biden supporter. So look, I'm so glad you come here, Biden supporters, Trump supporters, and we all talk and be honest about stuff. Look, sometimes your guy falls on his face, and you got to admit it. You know, I mean, I'm glad that makes me, I want to return debate to the United States of America, or at least have a small part in doing so, because we have retreated to our respective corners, and we can't even be honest with ourselves or with each other anymore. Ourselves is even worse, but it's true. All right. The bottom line is, that was a very powerful argument. He has been here for 47 years and he didn't get it done, which is going to tee up what we're going to talk about in a second. All right. But he's been here for 47 years. He didn't get it done. People think, well, what was he doing? And then he brings in the corrupt, which, by the way, I cannot believe Joe Biden opened the door to Hunter Biden. Trump wasn't even going there.
How excited.
She was like, as soon as he did it, Laura was like, here it comes. It's Hunter time. That's what, I mean, the bottom line is, I can't imagine his campaign didn't tell him not dare to bring any of this up. And he did. And he walked. I'm sure they did. And he had a senior moment. The laptop from hell is going to stick.
Broke him.
The laptop from hell, it did. It started. That is when Joe started glitching. It is. And, and he still, I got to give it to him. He still maintained composure for the amount of pressure he was under. But he did start stuttering. He started the deer in the headlight face was a lot more frequent. Right. That angry scowl that he does. That was a lot more frequent. By the way, in case anybody is counting, she interrupted Trump 30 times. She interrupted Joe Biden 2 times, right? We'll go back and recount it again, but Laura and I think we got it 30 times, and Trump was muted once at the end of his answer on healthcare, which I agree with Doug, by the way. If you're listening, Doug, I do agree with you. It was a mercy. Republicans are horrible on healthcare. The bottom, because Trump was just going on after a while. It was like, oh my God. Just so she did mute him with the time. And then Biden was not muted at all. And she only interrupted him twice. Biden interrupted Trump 6 times. There was no interruptions yet that we have found from Trump that were like real interruptions. He wanted to get rebuttals that he was doing. He manhandled her. She did a better job. She's a hack. And the questions were tilted towards Biden. I'm not going to argue with that. But I am going to give her credit for and Trump, by the way, giving her credit was very gentlemanlike and it came across well. But it was very gentlemanlike though, how he did that. It came across well. But the argument that he's been there forever, coupled with the corruption argument, because then Americans start to wonder, just like they did with Hillary Clinton, what is he or she really going to do for me? And this is what Donald Trump's strongest, it's more than an argument. It's part of his justification. There's tons of people in this country who just don't personally like Donald Trump, but they'll vote for him. We see it and talk to them all the time. They just think he'll do a better job. There have been some that have been wrestling with the idea of whether they can do it again or for a first time. But if you give them the choice between someone who's going to at least help me out economically, I don't like him, he's a pompous, whatever they may think of him. If the choice is between the pompous doer who makes your life better, and the polls all say, not just ours, the polls all say that people think Donald Trump made their life better. If the choice is between a pompous ass, like in their words from a guy last night, if pompous ass who makes my life better, or a corrupt politician who has done nothing for me, I guess I'll have to vote for the pompous ass. All right. That is how many of these middle Americans, I mean, that the guy phrased it, to summarize, but I've heard versions of that everywhere. And up until last night, he wasn't making that case with a small but significant sliver. He is corralling his Republican base. As it turns out, the Lincoln Project represents about 3% of the Republican base. That's it. That's all they are. They're not even Republicans anymore, and they might as well just change their voter registration. He was consolidating his base. And that debate is going to make sure it stays consolidated. Because why? Republicans are, contrary to the media narrative, Republicans are high information voters. They are. Especially that wing that Trump has a problem with. After last night, which they watched, believe me, I don't see how he's going to get them back, Joe Biden. I don't see how because they weren't ever really his. The 3 to 4, 5, maybe % of, the base that he's losing, the Lincoln Project base, they were never coming back, and it just didn't matter. They were going to vote against him, and they were going to vote, and that's it. But they're few and far between. What Joe Biden just did last night with fracking is much more risky to his Democratic base in Pennsylvania than anything Donald Trump said to his base in Chester or Bucks that is Republican and leaning against him. If you don't see that, you shouldn't be in this business. That is their livelihoods. They don't care about your personal freaking opinion. That is how they survive. And I'm talking to the media pundits who think you know them better than they know themselves. That is how they live. That's how they put food on the table. That's how they save to put their children through college. If you are anywhere connected to the energy sector, and if you follow PPD, if you subscribe to PPD, then you would have read a story in 2018 and 2019, which we followed up, about how many people in the state of Pennsylvania are connected to the energy industry and how much of that contributed to the gross domestic product surge in the state of Pennsylvania that was stagnant to negligent under Barack Obama and Joe Biden. And if you were connected to it, and there's a whole lot of you, what those people heard last night was, I'm going to lose my job in the next 10 years if Joe Biden's elected. Think they care about the decency argument after that? And to another group of people,
and when you're not decent, how can you?
He killed the decency argument anyway when the clip I just said, or at least he didn't kill it, but because it was powerful and it's resonated with millions of Americans around the country already, and many of them cast a ballot. That's true. But there are some out there, no doubt, which he made some gains with last night when he said, don't give me this decent crap. You're corrupt, Joe. You're being called, they're calling you a corrupt politician. Nobody's calling me a corrupt politician. They're calling him a corrupt politician. All right. I mean, that's it. And by the way, did you see the Google searches after the debate? They were all pro-Trump. Biden fracking, Biden China. There was nothing about Trump coronavirus. People, many people, millions of people just heard about that for the first time. And I haven't taken the hat tip down because we're going right to. There's another group that heard loud and clear last night, and that's black men. Joe Biden has been there for 47 years. Oh, Biden's super predators was number 3. All right. Which, by the way, another Glenn Kessler lie. Or PolitiFact lie. One or the other. But they heard about the crime bill, which you have to give the moderator credit for. She did bring up, and she did say it disproportionately imprisoned tens of thousands, it's more than that, young African-American men. And then there was this exchange. And I wish I would have gotten a better clip, but this sums it up. Last one, because we're running up close on the hour. Didn't take the 30 seconds. Wanted to run through it.
Respond, and then I have a follow-up.
You made a reference to Abraham Lincoln. Where did that come in? I mean,
you said you're Abraham Lincoln.
No, where did that? No.
You said,
I said not since Abraham Lincoln has anybody done what I've done for the black community.
And I'm saying,
I didn't say I'm Abraham Lincoln. I said not since Abraham Lincoln has anybody done what I've done for the black community. Now, you have done nothing other than the crime bill, which put tens of thousands of black men, mostly in jail.
All right, let me ask
remember
Vice
it
President
because if
Biden
you look
a
at what's
question.
happening with the voting right now,
Let me ask
they
Vice
remember
President
that
Biden
you treated them
about
very, very badly. Just take a look at what's happening out there.
And she pressed him on it. All right. And we don't, continue to go with the clip, but she pressed Joe Biden. He says, first of all, oh God, in the middle of him saying the crime bill, you imprison tens of thousands of African. Oh God, you think they don't know that's true? Are you telling black men in America that's not true? And then he said that's not true. And that is true. They know it's true. She did a great job following up on it, but they didn't need her to press Joe Biden on that. Believe me, black men in America did not need reminding how much Joe Biden's crime bill has disproportionately impacted them. Pennsylvania, again, let's roll the cue. Everywhere we poll in the Rust Belt, even Florida, but not so much. The Rust Belt is like, and North Carolina, by the way, is another one to watch. Because there are certain groups of black voters that are more susceptible to this message than others. Okay. And I was let that run through the thing. I was trying to show you vote preference. All right. There it is. 16% of the black vote in the state of Pennsylvania. Even the New York Times poll, which had an inflated, what the Biden campaign called an inflated lead, they were neck and neck in their polling. Even the New York Times poll had Donald Trump winning 22% of the black vote in the state of Pennsylvania. George Bush took about 16 to 18%, depending on which exit poll or which analysis you prefer, you believe. It can happen. North Carolina, same thing. It absolutely can happen. It doesn't come from black women. It comes from black men. So they better be right about that 50-point margin in Montgomery. They better be right about that. Because if they're not, and some of those white voters come back to Donald Trump that he's saying, they had in 2016, but don't now. Folks, the way the white vote is, how much it can impact the electorate. A fractional number comes back, and Donald Trump gets that kind of black support in the state of Pennsylvania, it's over. It's over. There aren't enough people. There aren't enough postgraduate degrees in Delaware County to overcome that. There aren't. Is there a ton of vote that comes out of there? Absolutely. And you can go look at the regional breakdown in the vote share there. But I do think, even though I think our own polling in Philadelphia was a little bit too pro-Trump. I'm the only pollster who admits when I think something that I found is a little bit off. Do I think he probably will do a little bit better in Philadelphia? I do, because I think Hillary Clinton maximized that vote. There are no more post-grads to pull out of those neighborhoods. Biden will get as many as she got. But in Ward 66, for instance, that voted for Trump. And then the other one, I always forget, in the southern part of Philadelphia, that voted for Trump. Both of them are going to vote for Trump again. And I think that's why we probably got an inflated number. But it also could be because where did these black voters, where do tons of them that I just showed you up on the screen right here, where are a ton of them coming from? About half were in Philadelphia. Half of that, the rest were working class people in the rest of the state. So there you have it. All right. There you have it. People don't know how to keep their eye on the ball. They needed Trump to collapse. They needed him to collapse. It didn't happen. Now, does that mean Trump's going to race and surge ahead? Not necessarily. I don't know. We're going to find out this week. I don't put these, unlike Frank Luntz, I don't talk to 8 people and pretend I know what the hell's going to happen. I'm going to go gather 4,000 to 5,000 interviews, and then we'll find out what's going to happen. All right. But I will tell you this for sure. The big takeaway is there is no guarantee that Donald Trump will not close this thing in a week after that performance, and Democrats will be finding themselves in the same position as Jeffrey Toobin in their hand. All right. And that's a wrap for the first segment. I want to real quick bring up a couple of things. All right. Yesterday, I don't know, there was a scheduling error. So if you were in Colorado, and I did get a couple of messages from you guys, if you were in Colorado, then I apologize for that. I did get a message when we were on before, when I was talking before, I saw the message in the corner of my eye that apparently there was a scheduling conflict and they want to try to reschedule it. I don't know if I can do it. I'm starting to get really, I'll try. But from this point on, what we have left here is Thursday, October 29th, Kim Munchin show, KLZ 560. That's Denver too. All right. So I haven't forgotten Colorado. Will still be, I think the other one's Colorado Springs though. So anyway, Keith Hansen, Daily Review, Nashua, New Hampshire. Had a great conversation with him last time. That's FM. All right. Karen Caitlin show, also Nashua, New Hampshire. That's also WSMN. Okay. FM. And we have Laura, I guess, is going to give us a ton of, it's going to be crazy. Election night is going to be nuts, but I am really excited for it. Thank you. I didn't ask this audience. No, I'm talking about where we're going to be. You're going to give me a schedule of what's going to happen. I'm going to be doing the election night coverage. It will be on People's Pundit Daily. It will be everywhere. We will have live results. We're going to partner with the Decision Desk, get it from them. We'll have these very cool maps, live updated results, county by county. We'll go through them on a live stream for you guys. You'll be able to find it everywhere. If you're here, then you want to watch it on People's Pundit Daily. You're a People's Pundit fan. But you can also find it other places. There will be streams on everyone else that is involved. It's not just going to be me and the Decision Desk. I'm running the Decision Desk. I will call races or not, and I will tell you what is going on. All right? Do not watch Fox. Do not watch CNN. Do not watch NBC. Do not watch ABC. Do not watch CBS. Do not watch anybody on Twitter who is going to drive you crazy. All right? Come here. I will tell you what's going on. Exit polls are always abysmal. Even the voter analysis Fox has moved to with the AP, that is large sampling of online people. Funny how that's what did he call it the other day? A spammy poll. That's what he called. By the way, that's not our entire methodology, but I find it funny that the AP and Fox News has stolen our gold standard from 2016, and yet now they are calling it their own methodology that is better than exit polling. It's incredible. But the exit polls will suck. Dr. Murray, who has been an exit pollster for many years, in 2016, talked about why they were so bad again. And this year, with the early voting and the pandemic, there is almost no way to correct for it. Okay, so they will be misleading. And the voter analysis with Fox News has had some really bad calls that you never hear about. They'll go on and they will praise their voter analysis. Laura, how bad was the voter analysis during the Democratic primaries?
It was a joke.
A total joke. A total joke. Close races in North Carolina, closer than expected in Virginia. Maine, no mathematical way that Bernie Sanders could lose the state of Maine. And Minnesota. Mm-hmm. And he did. Nevada showed Joe Biden doing extremely well. He got clobbered. They are not good. And then they get revised later and they pretend like it always said that. It didn't. At the 3 p.m. hour, they will get waves of exit pollsters from absolute disproportionately left-leaning groups, which is give credit to where credit is due. Like I said, Murray, if you go, I will find that story. I'll tweet it out to you. During the break, I'll look it up and I'll send it in the chat. You really need to read it. He has been saying this for years. We shouldn't even have exit polls. And then later, the electorate gets more Republican. But they always run to TV and always declare what's going to happen because of this first wave of exit polls. In 2016, they showed it Donald Trump, and they didn't even get revised better. Only until way later, late in the night, you were asleep, tucked in with your booties, all right, in your PJs, way late, 2, 3 in the morning, right? Uh-huh. And then they revise them again over the course of a day, 2 days. They get revised considerably. The exit polls in 2016 showed no chance, folks, no chance that Donald Trump could win. No chance. It was bad. All right. And then there's also what's it called? That I wanted to say 2004, another glorious miss. In 2004, there was no chance, no mathematical chance, according to the exit polls, that George W. Bush could win the state of Ohio. No mathematical chance. And when you get some free time over the weekend, go back and look at summarizes of the 2004 election night coverage with Tim Russert. Go look at with anybody. You will see people, Paul Begala, all of them, ecstatic, jumping up and down because they absolutely thought John Kerry was going to win Ohio. There was no chance. Iowa looked very, very close, but it looked like Kerry had a lead in the exit polls, about 2 points. In Florida, Kelly had a lead in Florida, 2 points. He lost it badly. Ohio, when the returns started coming in, I'll never forget this. Karl Rove was like, the hell? This is it. And he's like, they're calling their brother in Florida. We're getting slaughtered like this here, this place, And he's like, no, these exit polls are bad. They're bad. But that message did not get to the electorate for hours. 4 hours. And the panhandle was George W. Bush maybe could have won Florida by a bigger margin. That is what their game is in Florida, Laura. It is. I have seen this too many times to not think that it is totally intentional that they do that with Florida. To keep Bay County from coming out. To keep Bay County from saying, well, I guess Trump lost the state of Florida. There's no chance. I guess I might as well just stay at home. George W. Bush is going to lose the state of Florida. I might as well just stay home. Mm-hmm. They did it in 12 to Mitt Romney. That race was decided by 65,000 votes. 65,000. You could net 40 out of Bay alone. He definitely fell short of turnout expectations all over red areas. And he did worse in places like Pinellas than anybody would have thought. He thought that was going to be a county for him, actually. So there we have it. So with those announcements and with those caveats to take in mind, because I know I'm going to see DMs galore, take it with a grain of salt. Come to us on election night. Those of you who did, I did not ask this audience for sponsorship. I've made the decision not to because you're doing the public polling project. And I'm not Bill Mitchell. Right? So, that's just the way it is. We decided on one project and that's it. And I felt uncomfortable with the idea of asking anybody else. There were people who came to me and said, hey, I've already donated to the polling. I'll probably wind up donating more. Do you guys still need some money? And, we're trying to hit the targets. And, I passed them on like that, but that's it. Because you guys are awesome and not just you, but others, will be able to do this. Those results are very expensive. After 2016, I just was like, I'm never going to do this again, especially because the exit polls are a total waste of money, which they sell secondhand, by the way. People get their hands on exit polls and then sell them to other people like me secondhand. All right. That's another bomb. It's another reason why they hate me. Me just out of nowhere dropping a bomb like that. It happens. Sorry, Edison. They do it to you. They conduct all this research, Edison research. They do all the legwork. And then there are always these people who break the vow, which is not to talk about them before a certain time, not to release them to the public. They always do it. Why? Because they're unethical. Because you could pretty much get anything you want for a couple $100. Sorry, but it's true. All right, so there you have it. All right, so let's take that quick break. When we come back, we'll do an update about where we are with the money. All right, other polls, roughly around. We're talking big money here. We're talking big money. You guys did an amazing job, and I honestly, frankly, did not think this was going to be successful. I thought maybe we'd get, enough to do a poll. Doing it for bare bones certainly helps. But we're going to have...
He ain't getting paid for his time, away from his family.
No, I am not.
Just FYI.
And because we like to get them from various places, that always increase the cost. I think some of these panel polls are going to, just like sole panel polls, I think they're going to have a lot to answer for this time around. Because all of our providers even, and, we have deep conversations with one of them. They really, really believe, and of course you don't want to tell too many people this because then you don't want to lose business, but there's been an influx because of COVID. And these are people that it could be that we just don't know yet. They're too high interest. They're too low interest. I'll tell you, we can go over when we come back a little bit more on this because one of the partners we work with, 2016, their participation compared to the voter file that we use was really good. Meaning you could draw a random sample from a voter file and call it, and you're calling people who are a less likely model. And nobody knew it at the time, but the panel was more likely to vote. So already you were hitting a more not high interest. That's not really true. You were already reaching people that were more likely to vote than you would if you just used the voter file. Very interesting stuff. We can go over it when we come back. I keep that up there all the time because I think it's interesting. It also forecasted how this demographic and partisan turnout of the electorate would turn out in 2012 because, of course, we know there were tons of D+9s, D+8s, and we don't wait for party ID. If you get the rest of it right, you shouldn't have to. Yeah, it's our philosophy. That is a long-standing fight in the polling industry. I come down on the side of don't wait for party because how the hell do you know what the party's going to be? Party changes all the time. If you wait for party ID, you're putting your thumb on the scale. That is my personal opinion, and that is the opinion of our firm.
That's why we do with the.
That's why we have had the success in some states that others have not. If you think and you all of a sudden, Florida's going to be D+5. That's what they were doing in 2016 constantly. They did it again in 2018, and Florida was at least R+2. Exit polls say R+5. I'm skeptical of that because now I think we're headed towards big R electorate territory in Florida. But anyway, if you put your thumb on the scale like that, then you're telling the electorate what it's going to look like instead of just shutting up, listening, and they'll tell you what it's going to look like. All right. So with that, we'll do that. We'll take a look at the panel versus voter file when we come back. Very interesting stuff. You'll love it. All right. So sit tight. We'll be back. You're watching Inside the Numbers with the People's Pundit. I'm the People's Pundit, Rich Parrish. You guys can follow me on Twitter if you don't already, at People's_Pundit. All right. It's Freewheeling Friday. We'll be back after the soothing sounds of the Grammy-considered Boeing Band.
How much you wanna bet that I can get you back inside your head before the summer ends and spread a little love. Just for a little fun, I'll make you come back to me before the rise of every sun. Baby, it's meant to be. I know you got a man, but he don't understand. You're gonna be a heartbreaker. You're such a love taker. So just suck me in and you can toss me like a cigarette. 'Cause I just wanna be a bad habit, yeah. Rhythm in our love, it's impressive, excessive. You can't make this stuff up. My chest beats, it's restless, wakes the neighbors up above. Yeah, baby, come and show me love. Baby, come and show me love. Because you're gonna be a heartbreaker. You're such a love taker. So just suck me in and you can toss me like a cigarette. 'Cause I just wanna be a bad habit, yeah. Take a one-way ride, steal us away to find a place we can hide. It wouldn't take much to disappear for a night, just to give into the need and leave it all behind. 'Cause I know that you know that I know that you want me. You told me, now show me, come blow me away. 'Cause I know that you know that I know that you want me. You told me, now show me, come blow me away. You're gonna be a heartbreaker. You're such a love taker. So just suck me in and you can toss me like a cigarette. 'Cause I just wanna be a bad habit, yeah. You're gonna be a heartbreaker. You're such a love taker. So just suck me in and you can toss me like a cigarette. 'Cause I just wanna be a bad
And we're back to Inside the Numbers with the People's Pundit. I am the People's Pundit, Rich Barris, proudly. You can follow me on Twitter at People's_Pundit because somebody else took my Twitter handle and Twitter will not let me do the trademark thing. Yeah, they did. And I tried to change it and they whatever. Fish and chips, man. Fish and chips, right? So anyway, follow us on YouTube. You can subscribe, hit that notification bell. That'll let you know when we're going to go live. You can also like the page, People's Pundit Daily on Twitter, because Inside the Numbers is sponsored by People's Pundit Daily, which you can subscribe to at ppdnews.us/subscribe to get economic data. I do want to tell you guys, I made an intentional decision not to cover much about politics this year. Why is that? Because my detractors like Stu Rottenturd, okay, in 2016, and there was this tit for tat when Mandel was running for the Senate in Ohio. And Sherrod Brown put out a press release saying the most accurate pollster from 2016 has us down by 7 points in Ohio. Please give me money because I'm losing. And that was before Josh Mandel dropped out of the race. Had Josh Mandel stayed in that race, he would have crushed Sherrod Brown and the Republican majority would be bigger. I guarantee it. But he made a personal choice, a personal life choice, not to stay in that race. And Jim took over and lost because he was not a good candidate. We pulled it one more time after that. Anyway, apparently, it's all right for the Washington Compost and MSDNC to have what he, is widely viewed by the right, to have partisan skewing crap all over their garbage websites. But ours, which was not, in my opinion, screwed Trump. It was just fair. And if you're fair, you're skewed Trump, right? If you're fair, you skew Trump. If you're not anti-Trump, you're then a Trumper. So I intentionally, because of the criticisms of Stu Rottenturd and others, who hasn't called an election correctly since 1986, or whatever the hell it is.
You are mean, Brandon.
I am being mean today. Screw that loser.
Not mean. Name branding.
I am name. Oh yeah, I am name branding. That's right. Yeah. Yeah, I did see the new Michigan poll out. Trump +4. You guys will also get some very good news in Florida from another pollster today. I don't want to blow them up. We know each other. We all talk. We know the work we do. We embargo stuff, and it may be out already. It's 11 o'clock. It may be out. It's possible. All right, but they came to me like, we think this is a little bit. We think this is going to make a splash. What do you think? And I said, I think you're dead on, or at least close. It is. So it's out, Adam.
No.
Okay.
He was asking the question. You fell for it.
Oh no, I did. Oh, you son of a gun. Listen, honestly, they have exactly what we think in Florida is going on. Yeah, it's huge. Listen, because our poll is Trump +1.4. Go and look, though, at the poll in the undecideds. And we told you this when we did the poll. I told you that Trump's lead is likely to grow. I think it probably will be a 2-point win for him, but I would not be surprised if Trump won Florida by 3 points or, like solid 3. I wouldn't, because Jack, independents are not breaking the way in everyone's voter models, okay, of who has voted right now, from the right to the left. They're not breaking the way the New York Times said they were going to break, 14 points to Biden. They told you also that they were going to break 20 points, 20 to Andrew Gillum. They are not. Even SurveyMonkey has Trump +2 in Florida right now. SurveyMonkey's right. I told you they all would herd to me. They would all herd to me. All right? Not that Rasmussen is herding, but they're not. I'm not accusing them of that at all. In fact, this morning they came to me and they were like, oh my goodness, I think this is not good. This is going to make a splash, but this is what we found, And I said, you guys got it right. And because if we were to go back in Florida, there is no doubt, Laura, those undecideds are Trump-friendly independents and conservatives, right? So Biden's tiny little lead with independents of about 3 points or 2 points we found in our poll that was going to evaporate. This is how Florida works. Oh my God, I can't stand that I'm here again. I can't stand it. I promised myself 4 years ago I wouldn't do this to myself again. All right. And then 2 years go by, and I'm looking at these crappy New York Times polls in Florida. And by the way, don't let him tell you he was in the margin. They gave an R favored turnout in that Gillum +5. They really thought it could be Gillum +9 with a heavy D turnout or a better D turnout. They were just totally wrong because they don't know how to poll independents in Florida. Anyway, this is what Florida does. Donald Trump, every poll we conducted in Florida over his presidency, he had a lead. Let me let you in on a little secret. Every single one. We polled him during the Democratic primary. Against Kamala Harris, he had a 6-point lead. Against Bernie Sanders, he had a 5-point lead. Against Joe Biden, he had a 3-point lead. He never fell behind. Never. Now, we weren't polling during the dark days of COVID in Florida. Not head-to-heads anyway. So maybe, But Donald Trump is going to win the state of Florida as it stands right now, which will bring us to North Carolina and Arizona. North Carolina, Republicans are doing cartwheels over here, right? They're doing cartwheels because they have surpassed Hillary Clinton's early vote lead, which I told them, by the way, not to get too hyped up about, because I tell them the same thing I tell all of you. You don't really know how people are breaking, but what their polling suggests, again, is that independents are just not doing what everyone thought they were going to do. All right? So yes, Trump is up in Florida. And I'm not surprised Rasmussen got a +4. As you know, that ABC Washington Post also has a +4, because those independents, when you lean them, about half of them will lean. Now they're probably going to be a little bit more leaning, but about half of them leaned when the ABC Langer research poll, about half of them lean. And when they do, you can clearly see those independents lean to Trump. So there you have it. All right. Not that he will win independents overall. I'm not sure about that yet. But the fact of the matter is he may by 1, 2, 3, or he may lose them by a little, and it won't be enough. Because the two things, the R electorate is going to be solid. He's winning too many Hispanics. I have never seen this before. Actually, that's not true. Marco Rubio. That's what it feels like to me. And by the way, Marco Rubio, guess how much he won the state of Florida by? 4 points, right? Sorry for whacking the mic. Kind of in a decent mood today because you guys have made this project a success. I'm a little bit off. Plus, I'm just kind of like tired of this with these people. I'm just so sick of it. I'm so sick of what they're, I'm just tired of them. I'm tired of them misleading people. I'm tired of them pretending like we can't ever be wrong. Mm-hmm. Right? That's what really bothers me about these people.
No, what bothers me is this. You were right in 2016 and on.
14. We started the debate. We debuted in 14.
That's true. 2014 and on. They called you a fraud.
Yep. They smeared the hell out of me. Yep.
They tried to smear the heck out of your name.
Oh, they did smear it. They,
Now you have to be right. Like,
I know. What is that?
Like,
somebody else talking.
You can't have a mistake.
I was talking to somebody about that the other day. And it's somebody who has been following me for many years. And in 2016, we became friends. And he sent me this bot because he's a Trump supporter. He sent me, and if you're listening, buddy, I thoroughly enjoyed that bottle of scotch. He sent me like one of those, I don't know, $300 bottles of Glenmorangie, which he knows I like, but who the hell can afford that, right? Apparently he can. And he sent it to me. It gets FedEx to my door in bubble wrap. Like, great job, buddy, right? And this is for being the only one right. I was like, oh my God. I was talking to him the other day, and we were talking about that. Why do I have to be right every single damn election? But they can be constantly wrong and never have to take a hit for it. because that's what it is. And the answer, I know the answer. I told him. It's because this is what happens when you're not invited to the club. And they're constantly trying to take the reins back. They're very, very, very insecure people. Extremely insecure people. And they don't like somebody else intruding on their turf. And that's what happened with Stu Rottenturd. That is what happened with Rottenturd. He was actually coming after me that day because he was really angry that a lot of people were talking about, you know what? Actually, that guy was right. Not many people know him in DC, and that's not really true. It's just not many of them, you know? And they were like, well, he's, widely unknown, but you can't dispute his record. He was more correct than these people, like Stu Rottenturd and the Slimer. And that is really why he went on Twitter on a tear. And all anybody ever had to do was pick up the phone and say, hey, listen, I got some questions about how you do things. Can you clear them up? I invited everybody. I have email invites or DMs inviting everyone to the offices of Big Data Poll. Why don't you come over here? And by the way, like an idiot, kind of excited. This is the thing that really chaps me. Kind of excited in 2016 that I felt I was right. I really did. I felt I was right. But you, of course, when you're against the grain like this, it's pressure and you doubt whether or not you're doing something wrong. It's immense pressure. And, but I felt it. I felt it in my gut, in my heart. I'm like, I am reaching people that other people are not reaching. And my modeling is better. At least this year, it's going to be better at finding the electorate. It was better in 14. It was better it'll be better now. And now I have 3 elections. Have we had misses? Sure. Everyone. Nobody's going to be right everywhere. But we have misses in both directions, unlike them.
Even when you miss the most accurate.
Yeah, and usually we're still one of the shorter. But we have misses in both directions. And when you don't have misses in both directions, then it starts to smell a little bit. You know what I mean? Like, for instance, I overestimated Hillary Clinton in the state of Colorado. I nailed her in Colorado. I got it perfect. I missed Hillary Clinton in Ohio. I overestimated her. And I underestimated Trump. We only had Trump by 3 points. Looked a lot like the Fox News poll that came out yesterday. Trump +3 or 2 days ago. I didn't believe those people in Appalachia were going to come out like that. And I didn't believe the crossover vote would be that big. That was what did it. The independents, we were pretty much on with them. I was a little bit wrong with the electorate. But when I was like a fool. I knew we had something good in 2014 and all of them. I got messages to all of them. Emails, DMs. Hey guys, why don't you come down to the offices at Big Data Poll and check out what we're doing here? Why don't you come and I really can't show you on a screenshot. You need to come here. If you're ever in Florida, come on in. Sweet B.
You were so naively nice.
So naively nice. I was so stupid, naive, and so naively nice. I really was. I mistook them for normal people. I mistook them for decent, normal Americans, like an average, decent American. Because they're not. They're insecure, immature slime merchants who deserve names like Nate the Slimer, and Stu Rottenturd. And he's worse. He's in a whole other category of his own. He's just a bought and paid for mouthpiece. Imagine waking up and looking at yourself in the mirror and being like, I'm such a dirtbag. I get paid to be a hack. Could you imagine sleeping at night like that? I couldn't. I'm on a tear tonight. I'm just sick of it. I'm sick of it. All right.
All right. Time for questions.
All right. Hold on. Let me just show them the voter file comparison real quick. This was shared to me by Dynata, a company we work with. Back then, they were Survey Sample International back in 2016. And they partner with another partner, Aristotle, who we use for voter files. And they did this great comparison about whether or not if you were online polling versus voter file polling. And this is really interesting. Check out the primary and the general election. You'll see both. And I know this is going to look weird because it's not tailored exactly to the screen. All right. Here on the left, you have the 2016 general election. Here on the right, you have the 2016 presidential election. All right. Let's start first with the general, because the primary will essentially wrap it up. All right. If you were looking at the full voter file, totally, you have 32% of the full voter file who did not vote. You have 12% who voted absentee ballot. You have 9% who ended up voting early in person. And then you have 47% who voted overall, with election day votes combined, right? So you can clearly see the vote on election day, how big it still was. It was a romp, all right? Match to the phone, meaning the voter file has not just an individual record, but match to the phone, all right? 13%, a little bit better. 10% early, a little bit better. 50% total, a little bit better. Much better, actually. When that 3% like that is a significant amount when you start to get into big numbers. And then 27% who still did not vote. All right. When you look at the online panel and you cross it with the voter file, just a record. And I know it's weird. If you've watched our voter file analysis shows, you know what I'm talking about. 14% absentee ballot, a little better. 11% voted early, a little better. Another significant 3% is significant with that kind of number. 53% voted, and 21% only did not vote. All right. Then you have the online panel individual record only. So I tell you all the time that, Nate talking about 180 million people is ludicrous. The voter file is over 200 million, but there are duplicate records. There are records that aren't matched to names. I mean, there are dead people. There are movers. There are people who have a different name now. They're maiden name. I mean, it's crazy. Dirty rolls, folks. All right. When you match that panel, who was on the panel, to the voter file itself, you got 15% absentee, 12% early, both a little bit better, still 53%, and then 20% who did not vote. Okay. So a little bit better. The point is, you didn't have to do so much work. All right. When you use the online panel to find a true representative voting electorate. And then you're going to see me here with the bars. Hello. All right. That is straight across those categories with partisanship. So you can clearly see when they're matched to the record, the phone number on the voter file, when they're matched to it, which is right where my head is right now, you could clearly see the electorate was going to be closer. There was not going to be this D plus a million. All right. They were close. It was a little bit more Republican than the electorate turned out to be, but you could clearly see that it was going to be party competitive. All right. Whereas, Monmouth, Hillary +6, D +9. All right. Fox News, D +6, Hillary +6, D +8. And on and on and on and on. Okay. It always was going to be competitive. Right before we get to the questions, can we just do a money update? All right. How about we do a money update at the end, because it will change, but over in 30 minutes. We do see, I see donations constantly roll in, whether you gave $1, whether you gave $5, whether you gave, a large sum. We love you for it. Or if you view the show, because viewing and sharing gets it out to a wider audience, who then everything has helped. Everything. And everybody deserves recognition. And we love you for it. We really do. I can't believe I've never been so happy to be wrong in my life. All right. I just never been so happy. I thought Barnes and Laura were wrong. And apparently, I love this one. Sean's, I have pursued mine enemies and destroyed them, and turned not again until I had consumed them. 2 Samuel 22:38. I love the book of Samuel. Love it. All right. So we will do a money. I love the Bible, period. It's the best book in the planet. It is. Whether you're a believer, an unbeliever, I am a believer. But the Bible is truly the greatest story ever told. Truly. All right. So there you have it. Let's let's look at some questions.
All right. Let's
Hold
do
on.
it.
Hold on.
What?
Wait. I'm going to mute you first. I'm trying not to remove you. Yeah, no, you were muted the whole time. It's just, I don't want to remove you from the thing. Can we move to Wirecast yet? I think so.
I'm reading.
All right. I'll unmute you, mute myself.
All right, hold on. I see a question that just snuck up, and I don't want it to disappear. Because if I don't get your questions when you guys actually ask them, it's hard to find them. All right, so question number 1, Haven, aka Persuasion Pirate.
Yeah.
Will we be able to track a surge towards or away from Trump? And wait, how do you put out a unlikely voter in adult poll?
Okay. I'll try to answer that second question best I can, because everyone is a little different. At this time, at this stage in the game, Duke, man, if you put out an adult poll or a registered voter poll like NBC News chose to do, they made the decision to do that intentionally and to inflate Biden's national numbers and other numbers. If you do that, you are a total hack. That's really, I don't mean to be even cruel by doing that, like I was intentionally being cruel before. But the fact of the matter is, there is no legitimate reason for that. None. It's part of your job to project the electorate. It is part of your job. So for them to do that, they're doing it for 2 reasons and 2 reasons only. And they're doing it, 1, to make their side look better because they feel like a larger, bigger pool of voters would be more beneficial to Biden. And 2, because they're scared and they don't want to be held responsible when they're wrong. It is part of your job to do so. And considering how I've been treated by him, Real Clear Politics, who I love, they shouldn't even do it. And they know they shouldn't even do it. I am sure they are well aware at this point there is no legitimate reason to do a adult poll. Now, that being said, a registered voter poll could be conducted if it was done by voter file. All right. But what we have seen in the past, and from still people like Quinnipiac, they're calling and using random digital dial. That is an archaic system that tons of them still use, actually. I can't believe it. But it is an archaic system that doesn't even pool a known pool of voters. So they're just polling everybody. It's ridiculous. There's just no point to do it. There is no point. It's been known now it's been shown to widely miss the mark on who actually is going to show up. You will get people who are not registered to vote. People lie. There's just so much room for error. And that is part of the problem. And I'll move on to the other part of the question in a second. But it's worth pointing out that is really where the beginning of the problem in the modern polling era comes. All right? Because even for, say, us and the New York Times, who polls supposedly off of a voter file, you're removing the truly random sample when you do it. It's true. That's why we believe in bigger samples and polling subgroups at a high enough rate for each that we know and have a representative sample for each. Otherwise, what you can do is screw up the laws of randomization, and you no longer can rely on them to benefit you in the way traditional polling does. All right. So even if you pull the voter file and it's just a random sample, which many of them do not do, I'll explain in a second. If you do that, you're kind of killing the laws of randomization because you're just now pulling from known voters. You have to consider that. And then what most of them do too is a targeted random sample. All right, which that's fine. If you do what Barnes and I have argued you must do as a matter of statistics. You must account for the fact that you've removed randomization from the equation almost altogether. And because you're not randomly digital dialing anymore. You're dialing off of a different population. And now you've tailored that. You drew a random targeted random sample. So you're tailoring it. And that is where there's too much that can go wrong along the line to rely on what they still rely on, which is how you get. And then you have the response bias that gets thrown into that mix. That is how you end up with Gillum +5 because you thought Florida Independent's Nate were going for 20 points to Andrew Gillum. Nate, right. I mean, it's not to be, it's, he's got to know this. And he claims, by the way, to be a pollster, but really he was for a long time just the data guy at the New York Times. Sienna polls for him, from everything I understand about the operation. He is not sitting there and going through it. Maybe he is, maybe he isn't. But for what I know, Sienna, he's relying on Sienna to do it. So people who have been, and it's a relatively new thing with him, people who have been polling throughout the years and have gone through these different data collection methods, they know what I'm talking about. And then the second part of that question is, yes, we will be able to check and see surging or not surging. And honestly, there are two ways this can end up. If we run out of money, and I don't think we will, but if we run out of money, then it'll end up with just these results done. Here's what we think is getting Wisconsin up until what would be next Friday, Laura, the date, October 30th. So it would be like a traditional poll. We tracked it from October 23rd to October 30th, and here's what we got as of October 30th. Or we could have money left in the bank, which I'm hoping, and I think we will, that it tracks all the way until November 2nd. So what we'll wind up probably doing, Duke, is maybe by Tuesday or Wednesday, we'll give the first wave of what we think is happening. And then Thursday, and that'll go on the map. And then Thursday, you'll see the numbers changes like, daily. And I'm going to be working my butt off to do it because I almost killed myself in 2016. I polled too many states. It was not possible for one human being to do that much math in one day. It was just also labor intensive, right, Laura? Mm-hmm. So you do it. And back then we didn't even have as good of tools as we have now. So I had to do a lot of math, and it was tough. Also, we were allowing people, no joke, they were like skeptical of using online survey things. We were going to try to use SurveyMonkey, and the problem with them was that you couldn't upload results that you got from other tools, so you couldn't combine Excel spreadsheets or CSV files. So the data set was just like, you couldn't do it. If Murray would have had some way for me to upload the raw data set to SurveyMonkey to put out reports, I would have stuck with I would have used SurveyMonkey. But instead, we just used them to collect email addresses, and they were a good tool for trying to find voters on a digital platform. The idea was never for them to take the survey. The idea was for them to get interested and then take a survey and give us their email address. And then they got put on the panel. We took their email address, crossed it with the voter files to see if they were in those voter files. And if they were validated, they remained on the online panel. And unfortunately, some people back then were skeptical, and there was just a ton of stuff. Can I send you my answers in an email? I'm like, oh my God. That's what happened to me in 2016. It was something, man. And I didn't want to get rid of any. I didn't want to exclude anybody who I knew damn well would vote. So it turned out to be something cataclysmic for me. I mean, cataclysmic. It was just too much work. This time we're only talking about 4 states. It'll be a lot of work, but we can do it. So I'm thinking we get the first wave out, maybe midweek, and then track through the rest of the week. And that is what I'm hoping to see. Go. Note self by Richard TRS83. What is that, David? What is that? I don't know. I am getting a thing though, because for election night, people love my headset, but for election night, I need that. What they give me when you go in studio interviews. I always forget what they're called. Yeah, it's like a pack. It goes on its batteries. It goes on your hip. There's a mic clip to your thing. So it is what it is. So that's it. So I can't remember the name of it, but
it's an earpiece. Yeah,
it's an earpiece. Yeah, but it's got the earpiece, it's got the mic clipped to your thing, and then it's got the receiver that goes. So Yeah, and I see Craig's comment. It's possible, Craig, that we did reach a lot of those black men in Philadelphia, and that's why ours in Philadelphia was so inflated, for Trump, which I do think was him. But there's also possibility elsewhere in the rest of the state that it was inflated for Biden. So that's how things tend to work out. All in all, I was very comfortable with our Biden plus 2.3. I really was. I just can't wait to get back in again. I will probably know pretty soon whether or not I see movement to Trump, because just the other day from Wisconsin, that was very close. And I got that small sample. It's now, because I let it roll. If you guys were watching the thing with Barnes the other day, I was like, oh crap, I kept it on. That was about 400 in the end in Wisconsin, 400 independents. It was close. I mean, really close. Trump had a tiny lead, which gave me a coronary, because in September, for the Rust Belt poll, Biden led among independents. It wasn't big, but he led. And that is what gave him such a bigger lead in Wisconsin. And that actually Wisconsin, because of that, is what disproportionately shifted the results in the Rust Belt poll. So Wisconsin and Minnesota were the best for Biden. Michigan was about Biden plus 2. Pennsylvania at that time was Trump plus 1. And Ohio was like Trump plus 6, 8, Iowa was Trump plus 3. Minnesota was it was like Biden plus 4 or something like, or a little closer, actually. I think I'm going to talk out of my butt. I can't remember Minnesota off the bat. Yeah, let's go to the next questions. I hope I got that, dude.
He said you did. All right. So just so you know, speaking of your favorite person, Nate, he was trying to say anybody, and I paraphrase, really is kind of parallel universe of Trump-friendly polls that are on completely different planet from the polling census. The polling world is not unlike the rest of the media in that regard. I said, in a universe when you actually poll something for once in your life is a true parallel. With your statement, please show us the data you received from polling. Oh, right. You do not know how to. Glorified poll reading.
Leave it alone. Is that silver or cone?
Silver.
Yeah, I don't even talk to him.
I know you don't, but he annoys me.
Hold on 1 second.
But
Let me just say something real quick, because it's echoing. Barnes engages with him. I don't even care anymore. I just let the record speak for itself. And by the way, the consensus, let me just say something on that real quick. There is no such thing in statistics like this in polling as a consensus. All right. There is no such thing. There should not be, or else there's something wrong. There are always supposed to be outliers. It's called the rule of outliers. I mean, this idea now that there's like the problem is politics is getting into this, Laura, badly, because just like everything else, data research on other things like science and medical and the environment, politics is leaking in. There should be no such thing as a consensus. Yeah, you can get a consensus of polling, but there shouldn't be no outlier. And that's what they want. A world without outliers. That's what they want. That is anti-polling science. If you could even call polling a science. That is anti-polling science.
Wants to know, how are you? How are you? Can you ask Rich what happens if Donald Trump gets 20% of the black vote in the nation? And she also asked a quick question. What happens if the crossover Democrat vote is bigger for Trump than for Biden?
That's actually a good question. So it depends on the electorate, right? So typically we're looking at D-heavy electorates, but with incumbent elections, it tends to be that the base is bigger than usual, or at least than in its historical predecessor. Like for 2004, the base was, the electorate was more Republican than it was in 2000. All right, for instance. Oop. I always got the hiccup / I'm like plague. Yeah, I'm drinking. That's what it is. The water. Yeah. So that tends to be the case. But if one side's base is bigger, then when the crossover vote is bigger for the minority party, it disproportionately benefits them because, let's say Pennsylvania's 35 Democrat, 30 Republican. I'm not saying it is. Let's just say it is. getting 15% of 35% is a lot bigger than getting 7.5% of 30%. You understand what I'm saying? That's actually what happened to Hillary Clinton in Pennsylvania in 2016. The exit polls say it was D+3. We disagree. We think it was about D+5, but Donald Trump won a couple of points more in the crossover Democratic vote than exit polls suggested. And that is, typically what happens. If the electorate, and the first question was if he wins 20% of the black vote nationally, I think that's rather high. I do. It would be earth-shattering. It is still, the white vote is still the majority in this country. So even minor shifts in the white vote do dramatically change election results. But if Trump wins 20% of the black vote, it would be stunning. It really needs to be, I would argue that it probably will be closer to around 12, but disproportionately in battleground states, he'll do better. And I think that's really, even the Slimer has admitted, 2 years ago, I was being slimed by the Slimer, coming out with national polling that showed Trump, his approval rating among blacks around 18 to 20%. And in the end, what really would happen is, it wasn't noise. And I thought, it could be noise. Other people started to get the same results. And now 2 years later, it's a general, to use his word, it's a general consensus. He even wrote about it himself the other day on his website. It's a general consensus that he is doing better among Hispanics and blacks. So I think it's almost a given right now that Trump is going to win more of the black vote than anybody suspected only 2 years ago. All right. So it really does matter, though, how the white vote breaks. It really does, because the white vote will be 72, to 70 to 73% of the vote. And it's just the way it is. All right. And I do see somebody's going, they got to go to work. Thanks for joining Inside the Numbers. See you back soon. Really appreciate your viewership. All right. But if he doesn't do better, like Florida, for instance, he was in our polling and others' polling, he was right under that 60% mark, but he was doing better among Hispanics and blacks, so that made it up. And then, that can do it. Typically, though, Republican, if they're going to get like 30% of the Hispanic vote, then they have to get 60 or plus of the white vote to win Florida. Okay. So, I do, again, it's not just me, Slimer. The Suffolk poll had Trump at 58 with whites and 42 among Hispanics. That's a win, loser. That's a win. All right. The NBC Marist poll had Trump leading with Hispanics and just under 60% with the white vote. That's a win, loser. All right. I mean, I know you can't do basic math outside of reading polls, but I mean, you know how big the votes are. You know how many votes there are in the state of Florida. You know how many you're usually Hispanic. You know what percentage is usually Republican. I mean, come on. I'm really. I can't. It's just amazing the hubris of these people after they've been wrong so much, and recently. Especially this is why I made a big deal about the polls being wrong in 2018, because the House vote does not negate your problems. And even like Barnes pointed out yesterday, they weren't that particularly right in the House. The LA Times tracker was plus 15 Democrat. It was a 7-point lean. Many of the others overstated it. Without the ballot harvesting, it was really like D+7. That's just the case. On election night, it was not D+8, 8.5, whatever. And it didn't even matter. The states is what mattered. That is because a presidential election is decided at the state level. So if polling was still widely inaccurate in 2018 at the state level, which it was, then how on earth could we go into this election doing what we're doing right now, which is taking it as gospel and then listening to these people with very poor track records who are doing nothing but taking it as gospel, when they had CNN, Gillum plus 12, The other one the other day, Quinnipiac, Gillum +7. New York Times Siena poll, Gillum +5. St. Leo, Gillum +5. Florida University, which is okay, but Gillum +5. St. Leo was usually better. And in fact, what's real shame with St. Leo, I respect their work, but they had the right result a few days before they herded. Electorates don't change like that. They got scared. They were afraid to keep Rick Scott up and Ron DeSantis up, or he was tied, and Rick Scott up. They were afraid, and they buckled under pressure, and they came back with almost a duplicate result as Quinnipiac, verbatim in the crosstabs, only about 2 points less. That is a textbook herd. And it's a shame because St. Leo did have, until they did that, they did have a pretty consistent record of running against the grain in Florida and getting it right. Including in 2016, including in 2014. They were one of our better polls, right? In the model in 2014. It's a real shame. It's a real shame.
Angela, who you just answered?
Nate's consensus will be wrong. It's just a matter of how much. All right.
She said, thank you so much.
You want?
Okay. Angela said, thank you so much for answering my question. My husband works for a bookmaker and their data show a rude awakening in November. Underlying data show Trump. Just so you know. All right.
All right. Wait, can I just quickly? I want to quickly add to that. We were just speaking to somebody. He's an analytics firm in Wall Street that a lot of people listen to. And then I asked him because of the JP Morgan, Wells Fargo, all of these other forecasts, Oxford, and I said, because these are like real statistics. I mean, they really dig in. They're not poll readers like Nate is. All right. And I said, I had never seen a race this where the fundamentals of the race are in such contrast with the public polling. And I know you're looking at this race. Tell me what you see. And he had individual pollsters that he went to down the line. He went down the line with individual pollsters and had all of their records and whether or not they have accounted for their response biases and their partisan biases, and they did not. And he had like three that he believed did. And again, these are people, big traders, go to this guy and say, what should we do with our money? Because they ask him what industries, first of all, how's this thing going to shake out? Because they want to know which industries to take their money out of, put it into, and vice versa. All right. That's it. It's amazing. I've never seen anything like it.
I don't know about this. So classy lady Laura, that's not me, that's the person. Please ask Rich if he is worried about YouTube shutting him down if he announces races won on election night, like they have stated they will do.
Well, I am fairly confident that I will not give a call. This is why I very much made this clear to the rest of the team on that we're doing this with on election night, because they'll have their commentary and I don't want any part of that. And they'll have some great interviews, by the way. I've asked personally some really big name people to go on, and there's going to be a lot of great guests and a lot of great educational segments, by the way. But I impressed on them the fact that Florida is one special case. It's possible it's not that close and we can call it on election night. In 2012, it was so close, we couldn't call it on election night. We really won't have ballots drifting in over days in Florida unless you have Mark Elias run in, because it is that close, and try to take Trump's lead away. All right. Trump will lead in most places on election night. This is not the same kind of an election. And I will explain more to you as we get closer. And I'll explain more to you, of course, on election night. By then, you will have already known what I'm saying. There aren't going to be a ton of states that we're likely going to be able to call on election night. That is, if Trump wins Florida. If he does, then we're in for a long haul. And we won't know the president for a while. So It is just the way it is. And that's just the way it is. The bottom line is, it's going to be a very different election than what you have been used to your entire life. You have never seen an election like this one you're about to see. It will not be that we'll know many of these states. It just won't, unless it's a landslide for Biden, like the polls are suggesting. And I don't think it will be. So I think if and when Trump wins Florida, it will start to dawn on everybody immediately. Let's look at North Carolina. Well, guess what? North Carolina typically counts their ballots 3 days after. That's actually not new. What is new is the extra 9 days now. All right. So it wouldn't be responsible to call North Carolina unless we know, and I will have information thanks to the decision desk. I will have information on how many absentee ballots may be remaining. It is possible. I don't worry about it because the states that I am going to call, I think is responsible, and I will be able to call. And then secondly, if they boot me, the live stream will also be streaming through People's Pundit Daily's server on Brit. So you'll have a YouTube, but you'll also be able to go to People's Pundit Daily and view the stream. And Brit, it doesn't give a damn what YouTube says. So, and then D Live too. It'll be out on a thing on D Live. They promise no matter what, they won't take us down. So it is what it is. They YouTube, maybe they will, but the bottom line is we'll have enough in Florida, most likely. Not, again, if it ends up being like an Obama-Romney situation, then we won't. And I mean, really, it'll be crazy. But if it's not, and it's like 2016 or bigger for one side, then there's really nothing Mark Elias can do he could try, and he will try, but there's not much he can do. Where I'm worried about fraud is Pennsylvania. All right. Really worried about fraud. Robert from Trafalgar was absolutely right. And he got criticized for a pollster making a comment like that. I always make comments like that. I don't give a damn what they have to say. Anybody who's been working in politics for any amount of years on the ground know, and especially those who are activists and actors in Pennsylvania, there are wards in Pennsylvania that have perfected the art of voter fraud, and we should be worried about that coming down to the Supreme Court. Like Bush v. Gore, only in Pennsylvania. Donald Trump will have a lead in Pennsylvania almost assuredly on election night, and they will try to whittle it away as the days go on. You already heard Frank Lund say it last night, folks, or this morning, whatever. They're trying to preview this for you. So when it happens, you don't flip out, because at this point, they are willing to try anything to take this election from this man. Anything.
All right. Doug Coffin wants to know, long shot here, do you think Jersey is in play? And no. The answer he said was no. And he also wants to know, how will Gary Johnson's 9% from 2016 be redistributed in 2020? I think Jorgensen will get 3%. Those other 6% of voters, who will they go for?
Oops, muted myself. That's a good question. I told everybody, don't just look, because I know so many people did. And they would look at the vote in 2016 and say, well, Trump would have won Nevada if it wasn't for him. Trump would have won Minnesota if it wasn't for him. Trump would have won Colorado if it wasn't for him. That's not really true. What we are seeing so far is that Biden is getting a lot of the third party vote. Most of the Stein vote, of course, he's going to get. The question for me has been whether or not those voters will actually vote for him, because I'm looking at the percentage of first-time voters right now. That's likely to drop as we get closer to election. And then on election day, the number of first-time voters historically dwindles down as a percentage of the electorate, because they get their foot out, usually early vote. And that's, Democrats trying to get new voters out. All right. A lot of new voters potentially could be on election day, because the new voter that we see as a new Trump voter, they're going to vote on election day. They tell us constantly. All right. And then you have this other share. It really depends on the state. I think nationwide, Biden is going to benefit from the third party ballot, and he is by design,
Notice they didn't make an effort to find technicalities in Joe Jorgensen's filings. You'll notice that, right? Pennsylvania, Wisconsin, Arizona, they didn't attempt to find, like, outside, in most cases, activists did to Howie Hawkins. So if I was a Green voter or a Stein voter, I'd be pissed because they intentionally took away your choice. They intentionally did so because they were looking at Clinton, they were looking at Gore, they were looking at Kerry, they were looking at others who lost some Green votes that they think they could have soaked up. As far as where does Gary Johnson's total vote go, there were a lot of younger people who didn't like Hillary Clinton and voted for Gary Johnson. And Donald, I've told people that. And then there are people who voted for Gary Johnson because they couldn't stomach Trump, even though they leaned to the right. Really, if it's like 6%, it does look like Biden in most states gets 4 of that and Trump gets 2. That's what we found. Really, it is. I don't know if that 2-1 would hold the whole way. That's what the New York Times and others are predicting. I don't know that to be the case, and I definitely don't know it in every state. In Arizona, Joe Jorgensen was actually hurting Biden more. Why? Maybe that turns out not to be the case, but it is consistent in our polling. And that's because these are voters who probably wouldn't vote if it wasn't for 207, marijuana, legalizing marijuana for recreational use. But they're not going out to vote for Biden. At least that's not what they're telling us. They are voting for weed, recreational use of weed. And they intend to vote for Joe Jorgensen as a third party because they hate both major parties. That's it. They're skeptical of both major parties. So it really does matter. And then I think a big part of that, just to end again, is a real caveat as to whether or not any of these people will in fact vote for Biden, will in fact get out and vote for Biden. There you go.
J.K. Locke wants to know, do you think a strong GDP is going to sway voters?
So there are always those last minute voters. And I keep telling people, you hear people say, oh, there's always some 50 million as of yesterday. Yeah. Then there are those who are waiting to see what they want to do. A strong GDP would sway some voters. I don't know how much, I really don't. I think it will reinforce that argument that Trump started to make last night and hopes to close with, which is that he's corrupt. I have helped your life. He is corrupt, though. And that's it. He's not going to help you. He's been here 47 years. He helped himself and his own family. He has done nothing. So when somebody sees a GDP number like that, then it reinforces that a little bit. It does. I think, though, ultimately, how the economics, impacts how people vote is how they feel it, right? So they didn't really need the Bureau of Economic Analysis to tell them that GDP is taking, is going nuts. What they needed was to feel the economy was rebounding. I hope that makes sense, but people don't listen to like the headlines. It's what they feel. I feel good. I feel my situation. I'm looking at my bills. I'm looking at my checkbook. It's just a reinforcement, I guess, is my point.
All right. Mick Gen X wants to know, what do you make of this Gallup poll showing 56% don't think Trump deserves re-election?
Yeah, we saw that in, I don't know when that Gallup poll was taken. They tend to release lagging indicators like they did with it. 56% don't deserve re-election, but 56% think their life is better off than it was by now. A lot of those polls we've seen before, you guys can look them up. Newsweek did it. Gallup did it. They didn't think Bush deserved re-election either. It really depends on who you get to the polls, and then that turns, I know he's been saying it, Irish girl. He's been saying it, that something like that could be totally way off. The polls could be totally wrong. Trump can absolutely still win this election. He can. There's just, and no, like only an idiot like Frank Luntz would say this thing is over. And to give Texas to Biden is ridiculous. Not even the Democrats think they're going to win Texas. Only in their minds are they going to win Texas. And by the way, Democrats did get out a solid early vote in Texas. There's no doubt about it, even though I tell you guys it doesn't mean much, and it doesn't. Look at how much gains Republicans have made in the last 2 days in Texas. So there's just no chance. Texas is not going to Biden. I mean, it's just ridiculous. But they did this in 2018, by the way. Do I have to remind you about their Beto O'Rourke? You know, Beto came close because of the race. If it was a re-elect today, Cruz would win Texas by 6 to 10 points because now Beto is Beto and people see it. He was not the Beto today. They were trying to make him to be like the white moderate Obama. I have to remind people about this. Do I have to remind people that Larry Sabato said Beto is going to win Texas because he commissioned a poll from Reuters and Reuters had Beto up by 3 points?
And yes, Georgia's safe.
And Georgia's going to be closer. I do think Georgia's going to be closer, but I just don't see it. And not in a presidential election cycle. Not. I mean, you guys go back if you have some time, look at Georgia voter analysis. You'll see what I'm talking about. It probably could be closer. That one, you know, and by the way, the Atlanta Journal-Constitution is the worst poll in the world. The worst poll in the world. I will refer you to the Texas Tribune in Texas. They had their final poll was Trump +2 or 3 in 2020. They never had him at 50%. It was like 47-45 or 47-44, something like that in the mid 40s, where that got everybody, oh my God, Clinton could win. He didn't get a Texas +7 until the final day, like before election day. No joke. And not from any poll that Nate Silver would say is a reputable poll. All right. And the bottom line is the Texas Tribune now has Trump +5, 2 points more, whatever, than he had before. And he's at 50. And they were very honest with it. Like, look, not that, you know, everybody's in love with Trump, but they approve of the job he is doing, and they're going to vote for him. Right? And he's even going to lose independence, it looks like a little bit, but he's still going to win. I think some people are wrong with that independent. I think they're packing some Democrats into their independence. Why? Because I did it myself. And if you're not looking at region, then you're going to get a more moderate to liberal sample of independents. And I think that is absolutely what happened to Nate Cohen in Florida. That is what happened to some people in Texas in 2018. And I just, you know, look, AP, GFK, their poll, but GFK, their final poll was Clinton +14. They had Clinton with 90% of her base or more, Trump with 79% of his, and Clinton winning independents. That is a region and education waiting error. Not even waiting. You can't wait to correct for not getting an adequate sample to begin with. And that's what they try to do. All right. And that's what they look. This is not debatable. We have too many examples. That is what they did. And they messed up for it. That's why we don't ask ideology to wait. We ask ideology to see whether or not we're getting too many metros, too many, you know, urban metro voters, and too many, you know, liberal, moderate, suburban voters, because the suburbs is very difficult to define. All right. And you need to make sure that you're getting working class suburbs just as much. All right.
All right. Pool Kit, I'm not even going to try to say your last name. What is hurting?
Okay, that's a good question. So years ago, I mean, and now most people, because they listen to the Slimer, most people we used to call it mirroring back in the day too. But it's being called hurting by people in the media now because they catch on to the Slimer, you know. But when I was coming up, and people that I learned a lot from, they used to call it mirroring. And it's when a pollster is getting a different result than the consensus. All right. And they cower, they buckle, and they change weighting. They change weighting variables or whatever it is that they do to make it look more like the consensus. So for instance, St. Leo, they had the right result, that Gillum and DeSantis were essentially in a dead heat, and that Rick Scott had a 1-point edge. Now, in the end, DeSantis did better than Rick Scott. And that's how you know that Trafalgar's no BS. They were the only ones to catch that. We didn't catch it until Sunday of that, right? We didn't see it until Sunday. And that's when we realized, oh no, these people were lying. This is social desirability bias. And we did ask prodding questions to try to identify whether it was a social desirability bias, but we don't change our results based on it. I don't know what Trafalgar does, but that's how you know he's no joke, because he caught that and I didn't catch it until Sunday. All right. St. Leo was generally in step with what we had and what was the reality of the result, which was that Rick Scott had an edge, Ron DeSantis was coming, and that it was dead even. Anyway, 2 days later, 3 days later, which it takes time to process polling data, they release yet another poll, which is not normal for a university, folks. They only have so much money. All right. So to spend the funds to get another poll out when you conducted a final right before Election Day is a little bit weird. All right. And then they come out and they're vastly different. And they shifted 5 points for in Gilliam's direction and 6 points in Nelson's direction. All right. So that is hurting. And there's no explanation other than they got scared. They didn't want to be the pollster who was wrong. So they got scared even though they were right. And they herded to the consensus. We used to call it mirroring, and it makes more sense to call it mirroring. They mirrored the results of the pollsters because they were afraid that they would get it wrong, because they buckled to the pressure, not because they weren't confident. Well, I guess in some respects they weren't confident, but it wasn't because they thought from some certainty that they were wrong. It was because they got scared and insecure, and they mirrored the results of other people, or herded to the results of other people. All right. So let's get we'll end at 12:15. Let's get one more, and then I got a lot of work to do, folks. A lot of work. I haven't decided whether or not I want to just put out the same questionnaire and do what's called logic or piping, depending on where they are, to then ask Senate questions, because we have 2 competitive Senate races in 2 of the 4 of these states. So I haven't fully decided yet. And then I want to show the percentage of new voters as well, just like everybody else. We have done this. And then there's a couple of things. Yeah, you're right. Go ahead.
All right. Trevor Fernandez. I'm always right, Richie. You know that. Wants to know if, actually, a few people want to know the same thing. If Trump does get like a final week surge, will it be enough for the GOP to save Senate seats and win back the House? And then a fun question. Somebody, Jason Bennett wants to know, off-topic question for the end of the show, just for fun. What are you guys going to do as a family this weekend?
So in my house, pumpkin carving is serious business. And we will probably, because I don't know when we're going to get a chance, but do you want to wait until some point in the middle of the week next week? I'm afraid they're going to rot too quick.
You're mine.
This weekend. The boss says this weekend. I'm afraid we got big pumpkins, man. They're like, no joke. They're like, Laura, how big are these pumpkins? No joke. We got 2 of them, and then we got a bunch of little ones, because this is the first year we ever had a real front porch. We're going to do a little bit of decorating more outside. We got some stuff there now, but we really do love to decorate for every holiday, big time. Christmas probably is the biggest, but we have been getting bigger and bigger over the years. You know, Rome wasn't built in a day. You don't spend $1,000 on Halloween decorations in 1 year. So we do a little bit. Yeah, I do predict Florida is going to Donald Trump. I do. And I'm solidly confident that Florida is going to Donald Trump. I am the only one to predict Florida correctly since 2014. Nate Silver has failed every single cycle, right? Since 2014, Nate Silver has failed to call the winner of Florida correctly. He got it wrong with the governor's race. He got it wrong with Trump. He got it wrong with DeSantis and Bill Nelson. And he will get it wrong again if that map continues to stay blue. All right? Telling you, as things stand right now, and I don't see how it's going to change, Donald Trump wins the state of Florida. All right? So we're headed for a very long election. That's it. All right. So what else from here?
The
All
House
right.
and Senate.
Oh, right. So the GOP is in a very defensive position this year for the Senate. However, they were last year too. There are always surprises. As you know, and as you saw from the polls the other day, Minnesota appears to be tightening considerably. I even know Democratic pollster who told me that John James has a 1-point lead over Peters. And he didn't. He was down 4 points last week. They said that Peters bobbed down a point, was down a point for a day. I guess that would be Tuesday is when I talked to him. It is absolutely possible John James can beat Gary Peters. And then we have that race in Minnesota. And if Trump does particularly strong in Minnesota, I think that you will see that race become competitive. McSally is tied right now with Kelly in our polling. It's weird because it's close at the presidential level, closer than I thought. But I still think Trump's going to win Arizona. But McSally's coalition is not the same. So get this, okay? He would need a very strong win on election night to pull McSally over, in my opinion, because some of the undecideds that are left could go to Kelly. It really is. It's a crapshoot right now. It could go to Kelly to the point of like 4 points because of it. All right. Or not. So both Trump and McSally trail among a particular group of independent moderates without a college degree. But Trump only trails by 2. McSally is trailing anywhere between 4 and 6 points. But get this. They're not that big undecided. Maybe it tightens a little bit with that group. Among non-college independent conservatives, not moderates, Trump is romping Biden, 56-30. The remaining undecideds are no votes on Proposition 207. Who do you think they're going to vote for? Donald Trump. But McSally actually trails Mark Kelly by 8 points among that very same group. Nearly half of that subgroup are still undecided, or were when we polled it. So maybe that tightens and McSally does better, but she's not going to get a 20-point margin out of him like Trump is. Trump's actually getting a 26-point margin out of that group. Huge. They're different electorates. Trump is also doing better among the Republican base than McSally is. That's unbelievable, but it is true. You have the 5% Never Trump McCain wing that is, a crawl in Donald Trump's side right now. If it grows, he could have some trouble. But the bottom line is McSally is only as close as she is to Kelly because she does better among Democrats. And in fact, McSally's losing slightly independents to Kelly. Trump is winning independents. It's odd, man. And by the way, the reason why he is because he is winning that independent, more conservative-leaning working class vote. That is not a traditional Republican vote. That is the vote. It could be anywhere. They're a swing vote. That is the vote that Republicans are like, I don't get it. The country repeatedly tells Gallup they're 42% conservative. How come we don't win? That's why. It's that voter. A big part of that. And that's a working class Trump vote. It is not a Republican vote. They never understood this. They're thick. They are thick. They can't get it through their thick Frank Luntz skulls. The Republican establishment is stupid. Mitt Romney and Paul Ryan and candidates like that will never win those voters. They will always choose a Barack Obama over Mitt Romney.
I don't know. We might have dodged a bullet with Bo instead of Mitt Romney. That's sad to say.
That's Laura right there. I quietly say that to myself all the time. I'm not lying. Mitt Romney could have taken us into another great war. Mm-hmm. I'm not kidding. Mitt Romney was...
And I am no Bo fan.
Mitt Romney was your typical let's start a new war candidate. And not that Laura loves Barack Obama, but her husband did serve in the service. It's serious to call troops up and go kill people in the name of their being enemies to the country. The way these people do it in the establishment, Republican Party, and now apparently the neocons that have become part of the Democratic Party, again, because they were before, apparently them as well, they do it like it's nothing. Like handing out candy to trick-or-treaters. Go fight. Go fight. That is serious to people like us.
Yeah, but their kids don't.
Their children never do. Right. Barely. John Fogerty, Laura. I mean, Clarence Clearwater Revival. Fortunate Son is about Al Gore. I ain't no senator's son. It ain't me. I ain't no fortunate one. He's talking about Al Gore Sr. being a senator at the time. Why doesn't your son go to fight?
Amen.
Instead, nope. He gets to go to an Ivy League institution, get tailored to be the next vice president and potential president. The rest of us have to go clean the blood off our hands and suffer with nightmares for the rest of our days because George Bush wanted to invade Iraq. Anyway, moving on. The silver spoon, right. Like to take one of those silver spoons and stick it right up their rectums. I said it nicely. Nah, both sides. I'm talking about both sides of the aisle. There is a uniparty of warmongers, you know? And that's it. Yeah, there's no doubt, Aussie, that John James is, even the Democratic polling shows that he is racing up. He really is. So, yeah, Greg, I saw that. He's talking about the in-person Hispanic vote in Miami-Dade. It is heavy R. Heavy R. And let me say this about Florida real quick before I move on to one more question. I'll give you one more. It's 12:22. All right. Well, these guys, look at what they do for us. Look at the trust they're putting us. I know I am, but I'm like killing myself behind the scenes here, guys. I'm up all hours of the night. I'm like, but I was just want to say this real quick before taking the next question. We did see the shift in the Tampa Bay area that all of the rest of the media pundits are talking about. We did. It was even in 2016. Biden is probably going to win it by a few points, as Andrew Gillum almost did. All right. He lost Pinellas, Ron DeSantis, and he lost Hillsborough. So yeah, Gillum did win the Tampa Bay area. That's right. Totally. I mean, because he lost Pinellas. But Pasco is a different story. It's a Republican. Trump is still competing for the Pinellas vote right now, contrary to what you hear. He is. All right. And we saw that shift. 4-5 points. It's not the crazy shift everyone else is talking about because it's disproportionately coming from Hillsborough. By the way, Republican in-person vote is now surpassing Democrats in Hillsborough. All right. But independents are a little bit more, they're more liberal there. So that's how the media polls screw up. They call places like Hillsborough and forget to call others. Not forget. They just don't, they miss the entire center of the state. Anyway, we saw that shift to Biden in the Tampa Bay area, and you can see it on the crosstabs, guys. Go look at it. However, there was a even split in 2016 in the Orlando, Atlantic Coast area. The Atlantic Coast area is heavily Republican. Orlando is heavily Democrat, of course, as you guys know. What has happened is some Hispanics that are in Orlando and that surrounding area have shifted. And then you have the Atlantic Coast where Trump is just romping it. All right. And that went from even to +4 Trump. And then in Miami-Dade, where Hillary Clinton won basically 30 points, 64-34. What we see is a 9-point shift, 4 to 5 points in Trump's direction. So we're looking anywhere between 36 to 39% of the vote, and a decline in Biden's share of the vote from 64 anywhere down now between in the low 60s to high 50s. All right. That kind of a shift may not sound like a lot. It's a lot. It's 85,000 votes, depending on turnout. Actually, the way turnout is looking right now, that 9-point shift could be 100,000 votes. All right. People tend to want to focus on the places they want to focus on. We look at the totality of the situation, or at least we do our best to do so. And there is plenty of evidence to back up what we have found, juxtaposed to what they have found, which is that somehow there is only this shift in Pinellas and the Tampa Bay area, and that is somehow going to outweigh what many of their own polls show, which is that there is increased strength in Miami-Dade and the Atlantic Coast for Donald Trump. And by the way, the panhandle is not going to get tighter. I hate to break this to everybody. Maybe Biden does a little bit better in some areas, but Trump is going to romp in the Panhandle. He's going to romp. All right. So, I mean, I've heard some real big doozies. Some real, right? Real big doozies. All right. Yeah, Jason, it could be. It depends on how much, total election projectorate. I see early voting actually starting to slow in some areas, or at least not the in person, the by mail. So it's possible we're anywhere between like 145, I think we're at the point now where that's the low end, to about 158, 157. It would be historic to get that. I'm very skeptical of it still. Let's get that last question in.
All right. So my question for you is, do you want to talk about Wisconsin, New Hampshire, or Wisconsin or New Hampshire? That seems to be.
Well, I mean, we could talk about both, but I haven't polled New Hampshire. Maybe it depends on how much money we raise. Maybe I'll sneak a last minute New Hampshire in there. But I really think that we should stick to the Rust Belt here because.
Wisconsin, they want to know. They said when you drive through the burbs in the southeast, there are Trump signs everywhere, flags everywhere.
Yeah.
So they're wondering if Wisconsin.
Talking about like Kenosha, right? And Racine, which has gotten more liberal over the years. I'll tell you what, that 400 sampling we gathered earlier, Kenosha was stunning. And when I thought my mic was off yesterday, right? It was yesterday.
Yes,
that's what I was talking about. How stunning it was to me that how many Democrats were voting for Donald Trump in Kenosha, and that independents were slightly breaking to Donald Trump in Kenosha. And if he does and he wins Kenosha, that's a very good sign for him. A very good sign. Because I do think he's going to slip in some of the other areas. I just do. But Wisconsin is tricky. It's hard to poll. It's always very close at the presidential level, although it's pretty it tilts Democrat at local stuff. It did for many years. It's the birthplace of progressivism. But then it actually got more Republican. The voter file in Wisconsin mapped out. The inferred voter file mapped out as about R+4, actually. But yet we do see Democrats have a turnout edge. That turnout modeling, that turnout operation was unique to Scott Walker. It was his. And it seems like local officials have not been able, even Supreme Court justices, their candidacies, state Supreme Courts, they have not been able to translate that into them. And Democrats seem to have recovered their turnout edge there. That being said, we'll find out more about Wisconsin soon. I do see what Susquehanna sees when they polled, and now it looks tied to them. I see it. I do. I really do. And it was stunning to me, frankly. I was like, I look, folks, in 2016, I thought Donald Trump was going to lose the state of Wisconsin. I did not think he could win there. I thought that it was too decent for him. I also did not think Iowa would be that big. I thought it would be about, I think, what was our final? Like Iowa +5, Trump +5 in Iowa, something like that. Iowa by 5, Ohio by 3. Hillary consistently led in our Wisconsin polling until the final, which was even. Michigan was Trump +1. Pennsylvania was Trump +1. Florida was Trump +2, only because it was 1.6 and it rounded up. And yeah, when the final poll in Wisconsin, I didn't think it was going to be decided there. If you remember, because people are talking about Trump pulling out of his ads and not, he pulled out of Wisconsin weeks before the election was held. He pulled out of Wisconsin. He barely went back. And I just thought Minnesota, I thought they wasted too much time in Wisconsin, and they should have went more heavy at Minnesota, and they didn't. They went one time, and I was wrong. And I feel like I'm looking at this again, these results that came in from independents. I feel like Wisconsin is going to do what it did to me last time, which is come out of nowhere. I do. It just did it to me. It seems like when you're polling Wisconsin, it seems like there's a bigger decided Democratic base when you're polling early in Wisconsin. And then the way you know whether a Republican has a chance is if he starts to win a certain group of people. All right. He or she starts to win a certain group of independents who are truly persuadable. Again, many of them, they're bigger in Wisconsin, much bigger than the media lets on. Absolutely. The Trump, Walker, Obama voter. It depends what cycle you're looking at. It could be 7 to 12%. Really? I always say 9 to 12. That's closer, as it is more often than not. And if the Republican starts to look like they're winning that vote, it closes and it can get real tight. All right. But they absolutely need heavy turnout to do it. I can't wait to get into it tonight. Just can't wait, because what I see here, that looks like it. It looks like, at least, I just don't know if he's winning them by enough, if he's winning enough. But those voters could have broke for Biden. We've seen them break for Democrats before, and then it's like floodgates wide open. You're looking at a 6 to 9 point win for the Democrat in Wisconsin, because that's what it would, Barack Obama size win in 2012. Perfect example. Mitt Romney could not win that voter. He couldn't. They broke for Trump. They like Walker. They broke for Trump. And they didn't even agree with Walker all the time. They just knew that Walker was good with his word. He was decent, right? So Trump is a hard kind of guy to get that kind of voter in. Now he does much better in other areas, like in Rusk and Polk and these working class rugged areas. And then even north of that in Ashland and Douglas, Democratic strongholds. That is the birthplace of labor. That is where labor was born. And he didn't do that bad against Hillary Clinton up there because he is a working class message. Whereas somebody like that conservative Supreme Court justice will get blown out of the water. Even Hagedorn got blown out of the water. Hagedorn just did better in Kenosha. Okay? He did better in Kenosha. And that is what really told the tale. That's how Hagedorn held on and won. All right? So leave that there. The first place I will be looking at election night is Kenosha. Yeah.
It's not really a political question. So somebody, how do I put this? They were showing you to a friend. Here, look, I guess I'm sure you've covered this before, but what is the background of Nate Silver slamming you? I introduced a friend to you, and he responded with Nate Silver's view of you. I didn't have a response because I didn't know.
Yeah,
Go Gators.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know why he did that. I just don't. I don't know. When we started in 2014, we were a competitor, an election modeling competitor. Okay, and then the polling that was done for the model, basically in 2014, we stole Barack Obama's model, which is you don't have to spend a lot of money to go and just try to find out the kind of voters that are going to decide the election. Why? Because we did not have the money. So I get that back then, that was not your traditional kind of polling. And then in 2016, and this is the worst part about it, guys, and I'll be honest, I told everybody, nice little, like Laura said before, I was foolishly naive to think that they would be nice. I never got any response. The point was, but I told everybody what I was doing, which is that I was going to run a different kind of online panel that gets responses from what I believe will be a better representation of the electorate. And also that I'm trying to prove that swings, massive swings in polling data, like for instance, Barack Obama was always going to beat Mitt Romney. Mitt Romney wasn't ahead after the first debate. That was non-response bias. Republicans were more likely to pick up. So I was trying to prove that these swings and gyrations were artifacts of the polls themselves, and that we have massive problems in the polling industry. I never got a response. I never got nothing. The only one who did briefly ask me about my stuff was the Huffington Post pollster. I tried to explain it to her. Again, another invite. Come check out what we're doing if you're in Florida. Nothing. He just smeared me as a fraud right off the bat. Like, never called. He never took me up on the offer.
He was rude.
I think by the time 2016 came along, he was already mad that we were touting that our election model was more accurate than his, because it was debuted. This is what I personally think happened with him. Okay. I don't know for sure, because he's just a smear merchant who doesn't even have the character or the fortitude. He's a beta male. So I guess that really, it makes sense to me. Where I come from, you have a problem with someone, you address them, you take it up with them. But he's just a beta male bitch, and he does something like smear someone behind their back. I was foolish to think that it would be a conversation of some sort. But when you beat someone like him, which we did in 2014, it is perfectly all right for me to say, we did this. We looked at what are fundamentals that, regardless of polling, never let you down. And that is how we designed the model. And we went out on a limb to say this will be more accurate. Mark my words. The only state we did miss, again, was Tom Tillis, because we didn't ignore the polls. The polls were a variable. They just weren't overly weighted variable in the model. All right? And I'll never let it happen again.
You kept playing back and forth. You're like,
Tillis is going to win. Tillis is going to win. Tillis is going to. I knew it. I because the model said Tillis. Anyway, make a very long story short, to not lose track of the silver thing. Of course, I touted that we were more accurate. Of course. And I'm sure it stuck in his craw. So the first chance he had to try to smear me, he did. He's not an authority on me. He is a competitor. He doesn't do any polling, but he does do modeling. We started out with modeling. All right. I mean, publicly started out with modeling, and we beat him. So he decided to use his stupid little pollster scorecard, which is a fraud. He fudges. All right. And then you can take this to your friend. His A+ pollsters are the worst in the business. They're not good. Monmouth is not a great poll. Quinnipiac still is generally high rated poll. It's a horrible poll. You don't need me to do it. Go look it up. Look at Marist's polling in 2016 and 2018 alone. Look at the Marist poll, NBC Marist poll. You'll see sometimes Marist by itself, but NBC Marist. And by the way, there are times where the non-org skews. Look at that poll, just the last 2 cycles, and you tell me why he remained the highest rated pollster. It's ridiculous. McCaskill by 3. All right. I mean, I could just go on again. And the sad thing about Marist, they were the one and only poll in the media university space that gave Mike DeWine a lead in July, I think, or June. It was some point in the summer. I think it was a 2 or 3 point lead in Ohio. And then they heard it with everybody else to Richard Cordray by this and that and the other thing. All right. And they're miserable. I mean, Barnes and I have gone over this a million times. And the worst part about it is there are a lot of pollsters that we know, and I'm not going to blow them up. I was talking to one, and I'm not going to blow it up. But they can't, they're like afraid of that pollster scorecard, especially in the university sphere, because they need to make money. I mean, they need to get money from the university to conduct the polling. And if they're poorly rated, then they won't get the project. So they don't talk about Nate Silver the way they talk about him in private, which is that they think he's a total fraud. He is nothing but a poll reader, and he doesn't even do the poll reading correctly. Doug, credit to Doug, by the way, on Twitter, who is a liberal data journalist. From everything I can tell, he looks liberal, or data analyst, and he's been smashing Silver's average for days because there's just no inexplicable reason for him to make the decisions he does. For instance, Pennsylvania, keeping that old Quinnipiac poll in there that was inflated significantly while everybody else was finding leads for Biden only between 2 and 6 points. And yet he kept it in there because the average, everyone else's average had collapsed. Biden from 8-9 down to 4 in the 4s in Pennsylvania, which is the sampling error for most. All right. And he kept it near 7 points because he kept the Quinnipiac model, Quinnipiac poll that was double digits for Biden in there beyond any reasonable polling duration. And once you start getting out of, I don't know, I mean, everyone's a little bit different. In a perfect world, like a week average would be the best. I know RCP does it longer sometimes, and I do understand why. Couple of weeks, maybe, but once you start to get out of that week and a half, 2 week, when you have all these polls coming at you from every direction because you're getting closer to the election, there's no reason for him to do what he's doing. He just did it because he's a scam artist and a smear merchant. He's not my authority. Tell your friend that. He is my inferior. I mean, I got a record. He's got a record. If I'm wrong this time, he will have 1 out of the last 4 cycles on me. That's it. And I'll have 3 out of 4 on him. If he's wrong this time, he's done. Yeah, I mean, really. He is not my authority. He is my competitor. And he is one who is sorely lagging behind me at this point. All right. So all of this could have been avoided if he would have just responded to the nice little email and come to the office or call. Right. But, I think back then, I don't know if there was even FaceTime back then like that. But, I mean, he really could have just called or FaceTimed. Could have cleared it all up. Could have gotten screenshots like I do with you guys here. I mean, really. That's it. It's really. That is funny. Calls 2020 like sitting on a mountain of skulls. Look, guys, no matter whether or not I'm, right or wrong everywhere, what I can tell you is, at least, I think I will be closer. I think that's almost for sure. All right. The United States of America very rarely has. There was Skype. See, David, he could have Skyped. That's right. I mean, look at what we do here every day. Look at what I show you every day. He would have done the same. He would have seen the same thing. He just didn't. He just didn't. It's real sad. It really is sad. Could have just put it. And the worst part about it is, I never want to put anybody in a bad position. But like data providers I work with and stuff, I never want to put them in a bad position. But they tell me all the time they think it's it's effed up. But I'm not going to say, hey, well, do me a favor. What difference does it make, guys? What do I care what he says? Honestly, what do I care? Joe Biden better take Texas. That's all I got to say for him, for his sake. Anyway, yeah, I'm going to kick rock. It's 12:42. Gave you a little bit of time. Is there anything I missed mentioning here? Don't miss the Don Smith Show tomorrow, 12 noon Eastern Standard Time. I'll tweet it out, of course. I'll do my weekly update with Don. Maybe, first night of tracking maybe isn't great, but it is what, maybe I'll have at least something to share on the show, but we'll definitely recap. We'll go over, of course, the debate. We'll do our weekly conversation that Don and I always have. Love Don. Really do. What else?
What are the odds on Monday?
What are the odds on Monday at 2 p.m.? Yep. Don't miss that. Eastern Standard Time. No Inside the Numbers tomorrow at 10. Monday at 10. What are the odds? We'll probably do what we would do on Inside the Numbers, because the numbers will have some numbers. All right. And we'll get into them. All right. So there we have it. Laura.
As always, we love and appreciate you all. Thank you for joining us. You guys are fantastic. We appreciate the viewership, the super chats, the hearts, the camaraderie that we have inside our chats. I love it all. Great community. You guys are making it happen.
That's exactly right. And have a safe weekend. I don't know. We talked about what we were doing with our families a little bit. I don't know what you guys are doing, but have a safe weekend. Enjoy it. Maybe, carve a pumpkin, whatever. Enjoy the fall as best you can, because I know whether you're a Biden voter or a Trump voter, it's a very stressful time. Try to enjoy it. Remember that politics isn't everything. Family is everything, and try to enjoy some time with each other. All the best, folks. Kicking rocks. I'm kicking rocks. All the best. Don't forget to follow me if you don't already. First-time viewers at @peoples_pundit.
How much you wanna bet that I can get you back inside your head before the summer ends, and spread a little love. Just for a little fun, I'll make you come back to me before the rise of every sun. Baby, it's meant to be. I know you got a man, but he don't understand. You're gonna be a heartbreaker. You're such a love taker. So just suck me in and you can toss me like a cigarette. 'Cause I just wanna be a bad habit, yeah. awesome and our love, it's impressive, excessive. You can't make this stuff up. My chest beats, it's restless, wakes the neighbors up above. Yeah, baby, come and show me love. Baby, come and show me love. Because you're gonna be a heartbreaker. You're such a love taker. So just suck me in and you can toss me like a cigarette. 'Cause I just wanna be a bad habit, yeah. We can get on a plane and take a one-way ride. Steal us away to find a place we can hide. It wouldn't take much to disappear overnight, just to give into the need and leave it all behind. 'Cause I know that you know that I know that you want me. You told me, now show me, come blow me away. 'Cause I know that you know that I know that you want me. You told me, now show me, come blow me away. You're gonna be a heartbreaker. You're such a love taker. So just suck me in and you can toss me like a cigarette. 'Cause I just wanna be a bad habit, yeah. You're gonna be a heartbreaker. You're such a love taker. So just suck me in and you can toss me like a cigarette.